Chapter 4483. Boom boom. Like the waves, the divine power in Giant Shuang's body, like the turbulent rivers and rivers, rushed towards the barrier level that crossed the elementary and middle extremes. Wave after wave. Broken. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang's eyes opened, and there was a dazzling shinmang in his eyes. A mighty spirit, rising from Jian Wushuang's body. An extremely terrifying and sharp atmosphere, centered on Jian Wushuang, has skyrocketed. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's strength once again produced a leap. In just one breath, this breath was immediately withdrawn by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. One stood up from the stone bed, and smirked at the corner of his mouth. Medium Supreme, it's done. He can clearly feel that whether it is the strength of his divine power, or the strength of his physical body, he is a lot stronger than before. If this is the improvement of the basic attributes, in addition to this, Jian Wushuang can more clearly feel that his fit with the Tiandi Avenue and his understanding of various supernatural powers have become clearer. It was as if a leaf with a barrier was removed, and the sword's unparalleled mind became rare and clear. Even between the feints, Jian Wushuang's heart also gave birth to a thought of creating a supernatural power. I'm stronger. There was a flash of enlightenment in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Now he is confident that if he meets Bingyu Supreme again, he will definitely be much easier to win, and he will not be forced to the point where he can't get caught. It can be said that as long as the invincible Supreme cannot be reached, his sword is unparalleled in the Supreme Divine Realm. In other words, even in this great Refining God sect, as long as the Lord of the Refining God sect does not come out, even if the 5 elders, the sword Wushuang only needs one sword in his hand, he is not afraid. It's time to improve our strength on the next level. The lights of Jian Wu's eyes flickered for a while, and then he was exposed to Samsung's virtual power, which doubled in an instant and skyrocketed to 6 stars. 6 stars, that is, invincible dominates the realm. Now, I just need to continually consolidate the corpse of Taro Supreme. If I can refine the corpse of Taro Supreme to the state of Supreme, I will join forces with the corpse of Taro Supreme. By then the universe will be big, and I will where can I get it? Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, and began to think about the plan behind. Now that he has just broken through the middle Supreme, if there is no opportunity to make a difference, if he wants to increase his strength to reach the high Supreme, there is no hardship for hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years. Therefore, the fastest way to improve his strength before him is to refine Taro's Supreme Corpse. After all, these two universes now seem calm, but the dark tide is already surging and storms are coming. No one knows when the big war between the two universes will erupt. Once the war breaks out, it can be said that the Supreme is like an ant, and it will fall at any time. There is no minimum high combat power, and even the qualification for admission is not. Therefore, Jian Wushuang must take advantage of the buffer period before the outbreak of the war to reach his peak strength. Only in this way can he have a hint of self-protection in this battle of mass calamity. Refine. Jian Wushuang didn't stop. After turning his thoughts, he took a deep breath, continued to sit down with his knees crossed, and began to refine Taro's Supreme Corpse. A force of virtual force emerged from the hands of the sword, and then like a thin needle, pierced into the body of Tai Luo Supreme, like Xiao Hoheng's tone, refining Tai Luo Supreme. At the foot of Shurian Mountain, many disciples were shocked, then walked out of the corpse cave, watching Shurian Mountain's summit gradually returning to peace, staring at each other. Breakthrough? It seems that the fog double breaks through smoothly. I don't know what the state of Wushuang is now. Once he improves and breaks through, it is presumed that the night of his corpse will skyrocket. Ha ha ha. I'm already looking forward to it. Wushuang is on the Zongmen disciples, and he looks like he became famous in World War I. Many disciples looked at the excitement, and didn't think it was a big deal, smiling and discussing. In the other corpses at one of the 7 corpses on the top of Shurian Mountain, the chief disciple Heixing Shusher, Zhenghing Shusher, Xinyang Shusher, and so on became gloomy. They knew that this time the selection of beginner disciples, I was afraid they would be sprouting. At the same time, in the sovereign's dormitory far from Shurian Mountain, The main disciple of the Lord's Pulse, Yen Dan, the elder of Shunxian, was already meditating with his knees, and his eyelids jumped. The volatility caused by this breakthrough just now, in my father's mouth, is the super-qualified man Wu Shuang who made me try to kill everything. Interesting. It seems that the Zongmen disciples have a big rival this time, and finally have an interesting opponent. Yen Dan sitting cross-legged in the dark. The corner of his mouth slowly pulled a smirk arc. Miss Double? Super qualified. Ha 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 ha, somebody finally can make me a desire to fight. Boom. An 8-star breath spread from Yen Dan. Immediately, this breath is getting stronger and stronger, and it is violently impacting towards the mark-level virtual soldier. For a while, because of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough, the situation that was originally dominated by disciples of Wumai became faint. Among the disciples of Lian Shenzong, there was a discussion about the word shuang shuang, which started to sound one after another. Time passed slowly. In a blink of an eye, 10 years passed. In the past 10 years, the sacred refining Shenzong has become even more lonely, and it is rare to see that there are disciples of the refining Shenzong walking outside. Everyone took a sigh of relief, retreating in their corpse hole, hoping that they could go one step further, or study the killer at the bottom of the box. What I did was I longed to be able to show my strength in the sky, when compared with the upcoming Zongmen disciples. This is related to their practice resources, status promotion, and so on, which are extremely important. Finally, one day after 10 years, with the order of the Lord of the Refining God, Zongmen Dabi opened the curtain. For a while, the entire Lian Shenzong was boiling, and countless disciples who could not retreat for a long time came out of the dark corpse hole. Some of them are eager to try, and some wins are in their hands. Obviously, they have gained something in the retreat during this time, and many have a sad face and anxiety in their hearts. At the same time, on the same day that the news of Zongmen disciples Dabi came out, a similarly eye-catching news came out. In this decade, he was hailed as about to break the 5-pulse disciple's dominance, and was killed halfway through. The most promising dark horse, Wu Shuang, refused to participate in the Zongmen disciple contest. In a short time, countless expectation of Jian Wushuang disciples of Jianzong, who can show their strength, dazzled, their eyes startled. Wu Shuang even turned down the Zongmen disciples. Chapter 4484. In the refining deities, as the priest-disciple Dabi approached, it became more and more lively. The 5 chief disciples, including some long-term retreats and lonely mysterious disciples, have all borne out of the corpse hole. Suddenly, the entire refining Shenzong was in full swing, and the stars were shining. Theoretically, the focus of discussions at this time is usually those who have participated in the Zongmen disciples, and have the most popular candidates to win the championship. But this time, it was a little strange. Wu Shuang, why don't you want to participate in the Zongmen disciples? Numerous disciples in the refining God sect were puzzled. At the same time, compared with the doubts of these ordinary disciples, the chief disciple of Wumai was quietly relieved. Only one person is the exception. In the refining deities, a side hall of the Lord's dormitory, the main disciple of the suzerain Yen Dan studied here. There were no candles in the room, and it was dim. Don't participate in haze? Yen Dan opened his eyes violently, and in his eyes, a hint of black mist poured out. In front of him, Elder Shin Sickle sat cross-legged, his expression cold. Father, the boy Wushuang didn't even participate in the big game. What should we do next? Yen Dan frowned. The elder Shin sickened with a somber face and said, I didn't expect it for my father. The mister was such a chicken thief, and directly rejected the Zongmen big comparison. In this way, we were not very good at shooting him. Now, Yen Dan nodded when he heard the words, and couldn't help but ask with some doubts. Father, the baby is also very confused. Why does the father hate this Miss Double so deeply that he must kill him, and then fast? Stupid, do this for your father, haven't you paved the way? When the elder Shunxian heard the words, he could not help but open his eyes, and gave Yen Dan a glance. He sneered. This Wushuang is a rare superb qualification of all ages. Superb qualification, what is that concept? It can be said that Wushuang already has tickets for the 6-marker class. That's it. In the main hall that day, the Lord Sovereign wanted to perform soul searching, but was discouraged by the 2 old guys, Ban Shan and Moose Wind, only to wait until the back of Wushuang if he wanted to compete for the supremacy. The 2 old guys and Mofing will help him. After a moment's pause, the elder Shin Sickness glanced at Yandan and continued. If I don't try to kill him as a father now, do you think you have been able to fight for the title of supremacy? Baby, you remember, do everything for your father, but you want to clear the obstacles for you, and let you gradually become better. Elder Shinsickle finally took a deep breath and said. Yandan couldn't help but smiled and replied casually. I thought, my father, you really suspect that Wushuang is from a different universe. This is one of the reasons. The elder Sickle nodded his head. Theoretically speaking, Jian Wushuang used virtual power and passed the test of the test bedrock. He should no longer doubt Jian Wushuang. But somehow in the vagueness, he always felt that there was something wrong with Jian Wushuang. This is his intuition. After thinking for a while, Elder Shinxian shook his head and said, well, don't say this. Although Wushuang did not participate in the Zongmen disciples this time, it does not mean that we have no way to take him. Father, what's the point? Could we still have a chance to kill him? Yandan eyes brightened, and he asked curiously. When I saw the elder Sickle smile at him mysteriously, Fuses said. That day, the Lord Sovereign was in the hall, and said that when the Zongmen disciples ended, he would send Wushuang out to perform the task. The adult is definitely going to let Jian Wushuang go to explore the land of the gods. At that time, I will add a task quota to the suzerain, and this quota will naturally be you. Hehe, when the refining Shinzong comes out, who can protect the boy in Wushuang? At that time, his life and death will not be controlled by you. Speaking of which, the elder Sickle's eyes shone coldly. Master Father has done a great job. Yandan heard a loud laugh and immediately chuckled. At that time, the mists will die one by one. When the current sovereign lord abdicates, is this refining Shinzong the world of our father and son? The sister-in-law can teach. Elder Shinxian nodded with satisfaction and said, Baby, Lord Suzerain is pretty good to you. When you really become suzerain, don't let your villain get your way. Just as much respect for the current suzerain. Understand? Baby knows well. The two looked at each other, and had begun imagining in their minds, waiting for the scene of the suzerain. After 3 days, after the speech of the refining suzerain, and then under the auspices of the elders of the 5 elder monks, Zongmen disciples, Dabi, officially opened the curtain. The competition officially started, and the eyes of all the disciples of refining gods were all put on the competition. Naturally, no one paid attention to Jian Wushuang. The whole refining Shinzong a warm color. Countless disciples burst into the air and made their mark in the game. The 5 leading disciples who won the championship are each like a dragon in the sky. As soon as Feng played, he immediately attracted everyone's attention and showed his magical powers. Xianchen became lonely. On this day, an enchanting Qianing swept up from the foot of the mountain and flew straight to the top of the mountain. This guy, why are you still retreating? Jiumu muttered, shook her head and said. After that day, Jian Wushuang met the suzerain and returned to Shurian Mountain. He has been in retreat, as if out of step with the lively world outside. Ugh. With a sigh, Jisoo originally raised her arm, put down her hand that wanted to knock on the door and turned away. And at this moment, in the corpse hole of Jian Wushuang, Refine. The sword sat cross-legged, with a dignified expression, and sweat dripped from his forehead. In front of him, Tai Luo's supreme corpse was quietly suspended, and an invisible flame composed of divine power spread and burned in him. A sense of effort flowing from the corpse of the supreme lord of gods continued to become strong in Jian Wushuang's body. In the midst, Jian Wushuang felt that he had become Tai Luo Supreme, able to control everything of Tai Luo Supreme. Boom boom. Under the burning of this divine fire, the breath on Taro's supreme corpse became stronger and stronger. The most critical time is here. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and his face sank. The flame on the corpse of Taro Supreme suddenly became more and more turbulent. Tai Luo Supreme God's corpse will return to Supreme Realm immediately. Once Taylor Supreme's corpse is restored to the Supreme Realm, Jian Wushuang's strength will be epically strengthened again. Jian Wushuang is confident. As long as he controls the Taro Supreme corpse that restores the Supreme Divine Realm, plus the self-cultivation now, it is absolutely enough to sweep all enemies under the Supreme. The existence of such old monsters as the Ancestors and the Supreme Monsters, Jian Wushuang also dared to pinch his wrists. Chapter 4485. Alas! Inside the corpse cave, the sound of invisible divine fire burning the void constantly sounded. Jian Wushuang's expression was calm, carefully controlling the fire of God, 1 inch by 1 refinement of Taro's supreme corpse. Under this refining, Jian Wushuang only felt that he was becoming more and more proficient in controlling the body of Tai Luo Supreme, as if his body was transformed into his second incarnation. Broken. The next moment, Jian Wushuang opened his mouth and drank. The voice fell, and the eyes of Taro's supreme god, who had closed his eyes and hovered quietly in front of him, opened his eyes suddenly. A sharp to the extreme Shin Meng burst out from the eyes of Tai Luo Supreme. Howl! A terrifying roar sounded from the mouth of Tai Luo Supreme, forming a rolling sound wave, sweeping in all directions. The next moment, Tai Luo stood up suddenly, opened his mouth and directly sucked the mysterious flames of divine power, like the killer whale swallowing water, and sucked the endless flames into his belly. In that room, Taylor Supreme exudes intense golden light. His body kept ringing like a sledgehammer drumming. Click. The next moment, Taro Supreme's unpretentious atmosphere began to skyrocket. The key time is here. Jian Wushuang stared at the dead body of Tai Luo Supreme. Whether Tai Luo Supreme can recover to Supreme Xiuwei depends on now. Black Wings win. Zhengheng win. Furious Bear win. Yandan win. As the game goes further and further, it becomes more intense. Everyone's thoughts were all attracted to this contest. No one pays attention to Jian Wushuang anymore. The word missed double seems to be abandoned in a corner. The most commendable match is the 5 chief disciples headed by Yandan. The strength of these 5 people is obviously a lot stronger than that of the same level of disciples. When they are fighting, they are crushed by force. Don't mess with water. Besides that, a rookie named Fu Chen was born out of nowhere and rose strongly. This person is also one of the superb qualifications that have arrived during this introductory selection. He should have attracted much attention before, but he was under the limelight by Jian Wushuang's unqualified qualifications some time ago, leading to some disclaimer. However, in this contest he thoroughly demonstrated his strength, soaring into the sky, losing his opponent in a row. In the later stage of Zhongmen University, he defeated the 2 chief disciples of Black Wing and Xianyang, and met Yandan in the finals. Everyone is saying that Fuchen Shusher is the strongest disciple solicited by Lian Shenzong this time. And this is a real dark horse. After watching the battle of Fu Chen, the master of the refining gods even spoke in person and praised him. This makes the rookie, who is already in the limelight, completely clean. After 3 days, the decisive battle begins. Sun Fuchen and Yandan fought over 9 days. This battle has caught everyone's attention. Countless people are waiting for it, want to see who will win the championship in the end. This battle lasted a whole day. The aftermath of the encounter between the 2 was actually a vision of heaven and earth. The billowing black smoke, like a tide, rolled up and covered the clouds. The rookie called Fu Chen is indeed strong. When he got to the back, he forced Yandan to play the strongest hole card. Yandan broke through. On his left shoulder, the 8 stars representing invincible dominance disappeared, and a long mark twisted and spawned. Yandan, promoted to the rank of virtual honor. Sun Fuchen was filmed for 9 days by his palm. Yandan stood alone for 9 days. Wanzong Xiaoguang served as his background. The sun and the moon formed around the whole body, like the Lingqian. Take Tiandi Avenue and crown him. He stepped down from the 9-day cloud step by step. Like a new king ascended the throne, unparalleled in the world. This sector comparison, Yandan won the championship and closed the curtain. After Baba Tai was over, the emperor of the religious sect, Baji Suzun, ordered and celebrated all the disciples, so that all the disciples would go outside the sovereign hall to start the banquet, including disciples who did not participate in the Zongmen Debi Oishi Rock Mountain, inside the corpse where Jian Wushuang is located. It's done. Wu Jianxi's face was slightly pale, and his eyes were weak. When the mortal body of Taro Supreme resumed his first supreme practice, the moment of breakthrough directly drained all his divine power. When he saw the quietly standing in front of him, the exalted Taro Supreme with sword-like breath, the sword's mouth could not help but reveal a smile. The corpse of Tai Tai Supreme has finally recovered to the supreme practice. The sword Wushuang has soared a great deal of strength, and suddenly it is even more powerful, and the strength once again has a leap. Don't look at Tai Luo Supreme just restored to the elementary supreme practice, less than 1/10 of his heyday, but Rao has been able to crush a large group of people in the supreme realm. Su took a deep breath, and the smile on Jian Wushuang's mouth gradually closed, and he began to recover his spirit. At this moment, a clear and majestic voice blasted loudly in the sky of Lian Xinzong, and directly passed into the ears of all Lian Xinzong. The end of the Zongmen Big Match. All the disciples of the Refining God sect will go to the Sovereign Hall to host a banquet at tomorrow morning. Wu Jianshuang heard the words and closed his eyes for a moment, and then he remembered that there is still a case of Zongmen disciples. I was not able to participate, and Jian Wushuang did not have any regrets. For him now, the so-called Zongmen disciples are much better than others. But Jian Wushuang has no interest in even raising a trace of interest. Close your eyes. Sword warriors begin to recover again on the second day. The hour is full. Wu Jianwu opened his eyes and stood up, left the corpse hole, and swept towards the sovereign hall. Wu Tailuo's supreme corpse put on a black robe, closed his eyes tightly, like the same shadow, followed behind Jian Wushuang. From the sky, countless disciples transformed into gods flying from all directions to the sovereign hall. Oh, isn't this misty? Is it finally closed? Hey, I was still looking forward to what rankings Wushuang can achieve in the Zongmen competition, but it was a pity that Wushuang did not participate directly. In my opinion, it is wise for Wushuang to fail to participate in Zongmen. Otherwise, in case of poor performance, wouldn't it be a shame for her to have an outstanding qualification? Yes, in the event of a poor double performance, you will be defeated as soon as you enter. Isn't it embarrassing then? A whispered discussion sounded. The angry bear was also in it, but he did not speak, but looked at Xiang Jian Wushuang, which was quite complicated. He had a brief encounter with Jian Wushuang, so only he knew how frightening Jian Wushuang was. The sword has no two sides and no expression, as if ignoring it, swept away towards the Lord's hall. Immediately before reaching the sovereign's hall, a clear voice suddenly sounded. Miss Double Master. Immediately, I saw a shadow of Qian, flying from behind, and soon stood beside Jian Wushuang. Sister Nine Musk? Wu Jianshou turned his head back, his eyebrows slightly raised, his eyes flashed with astonishment. Nine Musk, today something is wrong. Chapter 4486. The Jiu Musk landed next to Jian Wushuang in one step, her undulating slightly. She wore a tight red gauze and a phoenix crown, making her already bumpy figure even more charming. Master Wushuang, have you finally made it through? Yan Jiu smiled and looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile, and then his heart jumped suddenly, his eyes gradually appearing suspicious. Miss Shuang, have you broken through to 8 stars? Well, just fortunate. Wu Jinshuang smiled at her. Okay, no wonder I didn't participate in this Zongmen disciples comparison, and I dared to break through the realm. Jiu Jimu stretched out her pink fist and gently stabbed Jian Wushuang's chest, urging a narrow smile. Oh, don't say this. Sister Jiushu, look at your dress. Are you going to get married? Yan Jian Wushuang spoke sharply. As soon as this remark came to an end, Jiu Shishang still had a cheerful and pretty face, and she immediately stepped down and sighed. Yes, the Lord Sovereign has already made his own claim, and assigned me to others to become a lover. Oh, who is so blessed to be able to marry Sister Jiushan? Wu Jianshou said with a raised eyebrow. Jiushi heard nothing, but looked up and looked at the ancestral hall in the distance. He said, "This person you should have heard, the son of Elder Shinsickle, is also the chief disciple of today's Lord. It is he who personally proposes to the Lord Sovereign and wants to become an acquaintance with me." When Ji said this, Jiushin looked lonely and seemed unwilling in his heart. Yandan. Wu Jinshuang frowned. He had not heard of this person. But the identity of the elder of Shenxian made Jian Wushuang uneasy. This Yandan is the son of the elder Sickle, the chief disciple of the suzerain, and the champion of this sectarian disciple. It can be described as a stunning background, talent, and all the honors in the world. You can be married to her, and you should be happy. How can you be sad? Don't you like it? Wu Jinsho shook his head and asked at will. Yes. Wu Jusi nodded and replied. Yandan is too arrogant and doesn't put anyone in his eyes. He likes to gang up and behave in a domineering manner. I really don't like him. After uttering a long and short sigh, Wu Jusi sighed suddenly in his eyes. In this world of strength, if the strength is shallow and no talent, even if the skin looks good-looking, it is just a chess piece controlled by others. She looked at Jian Wushuang, and suddenly a thought flashed through her mind like electricity. Miss Double, I have a way. I saw her pair of beautiful eyes glowing with light, and then she immediately held the arm of Jian Wushuang, her expression excited. Miss Shuang, can you help me once? With your talent, she is no longer under Yandan. And again with the elders of Taishang Moose. As long as you wait to say at the big banquet, you and I have long been privately set for life. Presumably the Lord Suzerain will never embarrass me again. What do you think? Okay. Yan Jianwushuang frowned and he refused. I was joking, but he came to refining Shinzong as an undercover agent. What is it to start a family here? What's more, from the beginning to the present, his heart was only cold and frosty, and he could not tolerate others in the early days. It seemed to see the rejection of Jian Wushuang, and Jiushi quickly said, Master Wushuang, of course, what I said just now does not mean that you really want to set a lifelong relationship with my sister and me, but to deal with the Lord Sovereign, wait here if it happens, I must not be entangled in you, you can rest assured. No. Wu Jian shook his head. Although his tone was not tepid, it was full of unquestionable taste. This matter will be discussed again. The chanting voice fell, and Jian Wushuang no longer cared about her, stepping on it, and suddenly stepped on the air in the void, rushing towards the Lord's hall. You. Looking at the back of Jian Wushuang, who was leaving like a flea, the nine musk couldn't help but stunned, and then a look of shame appeared on his pretty face. She first glanced down at her proud twin peaks, and then looked at her long and straight white legs, stomping her feet angrily. Damn! Alas! Wu Jian stepped out without a step, which is the distance. Refining the land and mountains of Shinzong seems to shrink at his feet. Soon, Jian Wushuang arrived at the Sovereign Hall. There is a square of hundreds of miles outside the Lord's Hall. The banquet was held in this square. At this moment, this originally quite spacious square was already filled with disciples of the Shinzong sect, and everyone sat down in their seats. Seeing Jian Wushuang's arrival, many disciples of refining Shinzong all stared at him, and their pupils suddenly shrank. Fog is here. Finally willing to show up? The man in the black robe behind Wu Shuang is the corpse of his god, right? It doesn't seem to be that bad. Wait. You see, Wu Shuang seems to have broken into 8 stars. 8 stars? Hiss. How is that possible? Didn't he hear that he was only 4 stars when he entered the school? I'm afraid that Wu Shuang did not participate in the interdisciplinary contest, not because of fear of losing his reputation, but because he was anxious to break through. He whispered, Miss Shuang, come here. At the forefront of the square, Elder Moose noticed Jian Wushuang, and suddenly waved his hand toward Zhao Wushuang. Yes. Wu Jian Wushuang nodded his head, and strode toward the Elder Wind Elder. 8 stars? Not bad. It's worthy of being a qualified person. The speed of such breakthrough is unheard of. Elder Mufeng stroked his palm and smiled. Next to Elder Moose Wind, there are 4 other elders. This elder, Jian Wushuang has seen them with the Sovereign Hall, so it is no stranger to them, greeting them one by one. Behind the four elders, the four chief disciples, such as Black Wing and Fury Bear, stood like him. The Black Wings, Zhengheng and others looked at Jian Wushuang up and down. His heart was slightly surprised, but there was no fluctuation on his face. It was only 8 stars, but it was just at the same starting line with them. Shi Wei was angry. The pupil shrank sharply in his eyes, and a chill grew in his heart. I don't know why, he can feel keenly that the sense of oppression and threat brought by Jian Wushuang even more. Before the sword Wushuang, it was like a fog, so that he could not see through it. But the current sword Wushuang is like a thunderous thug that hides behind a thick dark cloud. It has no prestige, but once you start, you will be shocked. The angry bear couldn't help lowering his head, deepening his jealousy of Jian Wushuang. Banquet open. With a long tune, refining the Emperor Sect's octogenarian Emperor Baji. He slowly walked out of the Lord's Hall. He was next to him. Yen Dan was slightly behind by half a figure, with a respectful expression, and followed step by step. The banquet started. Chapter 4487. Noisy on the square outside the main hall of the Emperor Zhuan. As the refining suzerain and Yen Dan walked out of the hall, the noisy square suddenly became quiet. Everyone looked at Yen Dan, who was half behind him, and his pupils shrank slightly. The Lord Sovereign brought Yen Dan alone to the banquet. I am afraid that the next sovereign person, Ji, is not far away from 10 as brother Yen Dan. Everyone looked at each other and thought so. Qi Yandan walked behind the 8-pole virtual emperor and raised his head to glance at the crowd, his face full of pride. Of course, he also has this proud capital, not only a supreme father, but also a close disciple of the 6-marked virtual respect. And at the same time he has broken through the mark level, and in the virtual universe, is a rare talent. That person is Wushuang? Ji Yandan looked around, then fell on Jian Wushuang's face behind Elder Moose Wind. 8 stars? Not bad. No wonder my father wanted to kill him. If he were allowed to grow, he might one day threaten my status. A sneer whispered secretly in Yan's heart. Yandan's eyes continued to turn, and landed on Jiumu's face, and there was a flash of surprise in his eyes. I have to say that the 9 musk is indeed beautiful. Even if it is placed among the major saints and goddesses, it is also the most outstanding pearl that stands out from the crowd. Today, she is wearing a red tight corset long skirt, and wearing a phoenix crown. And she looks like the unsuccessful fire-saddling auntie. She adds a little coolness to the charm between her eyebrows and eyebrows. Wu Jixi also noticed the evilness in Yandan's eyes, and she couldn't help but look cold, and lowered her head to not look at him. Ill wait see suzerain. After a few moments, thousands of disciples of Refining God's sect were kneeling on their knees, and their voices went straight to Jiuxiao. No need to be polite today. Su Baji nodded with satisfaction, and looked at the disciples beneath him. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This is the mainstay of the future of Refining Shenzong. The banquet began, and everyone pushed a cup for a change, just happy. The atmosphere immediately warmed up. After drinking wine for more than half a round, the first master of the refining who sat down put down the wine glass, and said with a smile at the corner of his mouth, "The banquet is held today because of 3 joys. The first joy is this time of the Zongmen disciples. This sovereign sees that the superior descendants in our refining deities are outstanding and heart-centered. With your presence, why do we worry about growing up? Decline. The second joy is to congratulate the great disciple Yen Dan, the closed disciple of this suzerain, who finally completed the avenue, breaking through the mark, and adding another for our refining Shenzong. The road to the future must shine. The third happiness is also related to Yen Dan. This suzerain announced that he would distribute the moon disciple Jiumu to Su Yen, to his Sazim Yen Dan. From then on, the two became partners and supported each other. After the Lord of the Refining finished speaking, there was a sound of approbation in the crowd. The Refining saw the slight jaw head, and then looked at Jiumu. I saw Jioshin lowering her head, biting her lower lip tightly, and clasping her long skirt with uneasy hands. There was a little joy on her face. When I saw this scene, the face of the Refining monarch was originally smiling and pulled down slowly. 9 musk, Don't you kneel down and thank the Prince Su for your good marriage? You can be married to Yen Dan. It is a blessing that you have repaired in the 3rd century. Duan Ti hurried to thank you? Elder Lon Lon paid attention to the face of Lien Shin sovereign, and suddenly he drank softly when he saw this. Lan Yeye is the only female elder among the 5 elder elders, and the lowest elder among the 5 elder elders. Yen Ming's eyes can be seen. Yen Dan breaks through the mark, and the future will be limitless. If there is no accident, it is already the next master's choice. If it is not necessary, Lan Yu really does not want to offend Yen Dan. Nine Musk was unmoved. What do you want, girl? Suddenly, when she saw the moon, her face suddenly turned. Nine Musk's head is deeper. She bit her lower lip, and seemed to be making a decision. Next moment, she lifted her head and said categorically, Elder Lan Yu, Lord Sovereign, I don't want to marry Yen Dan. As soon as this remark came to an end, there was an uproar in the audience. The expression of Elder Lan Yeye became instantly green, and the master of the refining was ugly. He didn't expect that an ordinary disciple in the Jiuzi district refining Shinzong dared to violate his order. Suddenly Yen Dan, the original smile on her face, slowly solidified. Slap. This is hitting his face in front of the whole refining Shinzong. Presumptuous. Master Lien Shinzong patted the armrest of the seat with his right hand, and a moment of pressure was released, pressing toward Jiumu. What is the practice of the Divine Master? Luchin Xuanzuan. Set up the gigantic arm of the top of the entire virtual universe. And Jiumu is just a star-like virgin who has not even entered the mark. How can he resist this coercion? Suddenly, Jiumu fell to her knees, her face pale. If you do not control the strength of the coercion carefully, then the fear of this coercion will crush her into a fan powder. I ask you, why don't you want to be married to my son? Elder Falcon Sickle also scolded with a somber face beside him. Wu Jiu shuddered, raised his head hard, clenched his teeth and said, Elder Huishan Sickle and Lord, www. Novel. It's not that Jiushin doesn't want to become a mate with brother Yandan, but Jiushin already has his own heart, and set a private life with him. As soon as this sentence came out, the whole house was uproar again. Countless people looked at each other. Who does not know that Jimu has been regarded as a prisoner by Yen Dan in the refining deities? Who dares to grab Yen Dan woman? Bad. I ask you, who is the one who has set you for life privately? Chi Yen Dan yelled. His face was already a little bit sullen, his eyes flashed wildly. The Lord of the Refining God frowned. Yes, yes. Yen Jio's eyes shivered and looked behind the elders of Elk Wind, with an expressionless expression, regardless of her lifeless swordsman, and gritted his teeth and said, It's Master Wu Shuang. After she said that, she lowered her head, dared not to look at the crowd anymore, and did not dare to face Jian Wu Shuang's eyes. What? Is it Misty Double? No wonder I was a big disciple in Zongmen before. Wu Shuang did not participate, and Jiushin did not participate. It turned out to be for some reason. When the disciples of Zongmen were comparing, I saw it several times. Jiujia went to the top of Shurian Mountain. I was also curious about what Jiujia was living under Shurian Mountain, and went to the top of the mountain. Now I want to come. Am afraid to go to the fog double. Suddenly, the entire square fell into a short silence, and then it boiled up. Chapter 4488. Alas! Among the crowd, Qi's gaze fell on Jian Wushuang's face. Everyone looked at Jian Wushuang. Their expressions were weird to the extreme. Meng Wushuang, an absolute qualification holder, is also the elders who are too senior now, and personally accepted the introduction. Oh, the person who took away Yin Dan imprisonment turned out to be Wu Shuang. Now I have a good show. One is the most talented person in the patriarch today, the other is the patriarch of today's disciples, and the next lord candidate in the eyes of the suzerain. Now it depends on how the suzerain chooses. The discussion sounded loudly. Jane Yindan turned his head fiercely, looking at Xiang Jianwushuang sternly, his eyes skyrocketing. Su Shengshan's face also gloomed instantly. He was actually the eight-pole vanity of the sovereign lord, and his somewhat angry face calmed down and frowned. In addition to being a master of Yen Dan, he is more a master of refining the gods. focusing on a technique of balance. Yen Dan had asked him for Jiumu before, and wanted him to speak in person, so that Jiumu and Yen Dan became acquaintances. It seemed to him that it was as if the child was asking him for a beloved toy naturally. Nothing is impossible. But now, with a fog pair inserted in the middle, the situation is different. It is like a steelyard scale. The weight of Jiumu and Yen Dan was completely different. Everything was tilting towards Yen Dan. He didn't mind agreeing to Yen Dan. But after the fog double, the weights on both sides of the steelyard suddenly changed. To tell the truth, as the Lord of the Refining God, he is not malicious to the sword Wushuang. After all, Jian Wushuang is an outstanding qualification verified by the test bedrock. What he said about the soul-searching technique in the Hall of the Suzerain was only because of doubt. Jian Wushuang is the spy sent by the divine universe. From the perspective of the overall situation, he is naturally a sword warrior is good. After all, sword warrior is a person who refines Shinzong, sword warrior is better, and god of refinement is naturally better. The two are complementary and not hostile. If nothing else, Jian Wushuang's future will inevitably become one of the pillars of refining Shinzong. For a moment, the Lord of the Refining God really didn't know how to speak. If these 9 musketeers have really become acquaintances with Jian Wushuang already, then the matter of the 9 musketeers and Yen Dan should really be considered separately. After a short while, he frowned before looking at Jian Wushuang, and Shin Shing said, "Shuang Shuang, was Jiumu said just now, is it true or false?" As soon as the voice of the master of the refining gods fell, Yen Dan also looked at Xiang Jian Wushuang, and his face was cold and cold. "Master Wushuang, have you done too much?" Wu Jian Wushuang said nothing, expressionless. But in his heart, he was already so angry. "What are you trying to do with these 9 musketeers?" As early as the air above the main hall of the Lord, the 9 musk devil begged him to play with her and shirk her marriage with Yen Dan. Wu Kejian Wushuang had rejected her very clearly at that time. He didn't expect that these 9 musk devil were so selfish and did not care about his feelings. In this square, they openly declared that they had settled with him for life. Wu Jian Wushuang understood that he was used by Jiushin. As for why Jishu chose him, of course, it wasn't because he was so charming. They have only seen each other only 3 times. Why is that charming? The reason is simple. What Jiumu's fancy is Jian Wushuang's outstanding qualifications. She believes that between Yen Dan and him, the Lord of the Refining Gods will be difficult to choose. However, she didn't think about it. After this incident, she apologized to Jian Wushuang and was able to pat her buttocks and leave like an okay person. But what about Jian Wushuang? Jian Wushuang will definitely offend Yen Dan, becoming a nail in the eyes of Yen Dan father and son, and a thorn in the flesh, which will attract resentment. If it is an ordinary disciple, such resentment is caused. It is simply not far from the death. Jian Wushuang's thoughts flashed quickly, and he was naturally not afraid of the Yen Dan father and son. For him now, even if Elder Shin Sickle and Yen Dan were tied together, it was not enough for him to punch and sword. But he was very displeased that he was people take out the feeling of blocking the gun. He stepped out, and Shen Wushuang said in a deep voice, "Return to Lord Sui. What did Jusi Shurji say about a private life, my disciple?" "I don't know." "How?" As soon as this remark came to an end, the whole audience was upset again. "I don't know." These 4 words are absolutely extinct. In that moment, everyone's face changed. Suddenly, the 9 musketeers kneeling on the ground suddenly felt like a knife twisted in his heart. Jiao's body trembled and almost fell to the ground. Her face turned pale and looked at Jian Wushuang's indifferent and calm face, cannot help but utter a grin. "Are you so heartless?" Yen Yen and Elder Shinxian, including the Lord of Refining God, are all one, including the Elder Wind Elder standing next to Jian Wushuang. There is also a touch of surprise on his face. "Wushuang, are you afraid of Yen Dan?" "They just said that." "You can rest assured that if the 9 musk devil is really the woman you fancy, this seat will leave this old face out, and it will certainly help you to put her in your hands." Elder Moose Wind spoke to Jian Wushuang. This cannot help but let Jian Wushuang be touched by heart. I have to say that Elder Moose is a very competent elder. If Jian Wushuang is in this universe, Maybe he treats the relationship between Elder Moose and Elder Wind. Extreme wave. He is just a pity, after all, they are not the same person. I sighed in my heart. Jian Wushuang shook his head and replied, Elder Moose Wind, no need to do this. I do not have a half relationship with Sister Jiushan. Okay. Elder Mengfeng nodded when he heard the words. Since Jian Wushuang had already said so, he would not force it anymore. Ha 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 ha, cheap, I want to see, who can take advantage of you now? Jane Yindan sneered, first glanced at Jiumu, then turned his eyes, looked at Jian Wushuang. A sneer appeared in his eyes. He looked at Jian Wushuang, his face was full of satisfaction, as if to say, count as your boy. This makes the sword unparalleled, a frown cannot help. He didn't like the move that Jiujutsu was good at advocating, but Yindan eyes were equally unhappy. Master Sect, my disciples implore, now let me bring Jiumu back. Ji Yindan turned back, and said to the Lord of the Refining God, well go. Master Lian Shen nodded blandly. This result is better for him now. Xiezongzhu. Yindan arched his hand towards the Lord of the Lian Shen zone, and immediately looked at Jiumu again, stretched out the corner of his mouth and licked his split lips. Obscene and cruel eyes glanced from Jiumu's enchanting, perfect body. After Hei's smile, stretched out his palm and scratched at the 9 musk. Suddenly, in the scream of Jiumu, she soared and fell into Yindan's hands. He picked up the 9 musk deer and walked towards the square. Just when he was about to pass by with sword unparalleled, he seemed to remember something, his footsteps suddenly. Chapter 4489. Miss Double. Qi Yindan stopped, turned his head, and looked at Jian Wushuang. What? Sword replied without expression on both sides. I saw Yindan glance around, then lowered his voice and said playfully, Miss Shuang, I know that there must be something unspeakable between you and this base man. But this time you know the truth. Knowing that you have avoided the limelight, I will let you go. But you remember, wait here. Between you and me, there must be accounts to be counted. When that time comes, not only will this scumbag die, but you will also have to be a slave to me, in order to dispel my shame today. After saying that, Yindan sneered, and then planned to leave. Jian Wushuang made a statement to deny, and indirectly made a clearance for him. Instead of being grateful for Jian Wushuang in his heart, he remembered it even more. As proud as he was, Yindan was born with a golden key since he was a child. Not only did his father, who was a trace-level cultivator of the Elder Shinzong, become an elder, after showing his prominence, he was refined by the Lord of the Elder God, the chief disciple of the entire refining Shinzong. What kind of status is this? Therefore, this cultivated his high-minded and domineering character. He has been sailing smoothly since he was small, and has never been rejected by others. But today, a woman in Jiushu district refused him under the court, and even said that she had a private life with others for a long time. What a shame to him. After that, although Jian Wushuang uttered a denial, in his opinion, what Jian Wushuang said was like a knife, and it was tied to his heart. What for? Is it Yindan? Is it only for your misty eyes to look down on? Therefore, he had a jealous feeling in Jian Wushuang's heart, and he was even more disgusted with resentment. The most important thing is that he absolutely does not believe that these 9 musk devil really have nothing to do with Jian Wushuang. He has made a plan now. When he returns to the dormitory, he will teach the 9 musk deer well. Through the method of double cultivation, directly the 9 musk deer children to let her know and humiliate him. After dying, I was looking for a chance to make Jian Wushuang thousands of swords. Once, the possibility of Jian Wushuang competing with him for the supremacy was cut off, and the other was to vent his hatred. This man is in the same vein as the Elder Sickle. I was just when Yindan made this plan, and was about to leave. Suddenly, stop. There was a quiet voice, coming out of Jian Wushuang's mouth. As soon as this remark came to an end, everyone who thought that this farce had come to an end couldn't help it. He included Yindan, who had already stepped out of the square, and his eyes were narrowed. Then he turned slowly and looked at Jian Wushuang. His expression was somber and asked, "Mist, what are you doing?" Among all the people, only his face was pale and the despairing 9 musk deer. His face suddenly burst into a joy, and suddenly looked at Jian Wushuang. At the same time, she was excited and quickly transmitted a voice to Jian Wushuang. Miss Shuang, what I did just now was really helpless. And I just did this stupid thing. Miss Shuang, I apologize to you. But I beg you, save me, Save me, otherwise I will die. Jian Wushuang heard the words indifferent, but looked intently at Yin Dan. His voice was flat. You say what you just told me and try again. He had planned not to intervene in this matter, and this Yin Dan would just obediently leave. But he would die. This Yin Dan had to run to him to provoke him, and make him a slave. I'm sorry, he has acted with his sword, and never gave in half. Yin Dan narrowed his eyes when he heard the words, and gradually raised the corners of his mouth, asking instead, Shuangwu, how about I repeat it? Do you want to stop me? Stop you, Wu Jianshou sneered, stepped out, and suddenly appeared in front of Yin Dan, indifferently speaking. You say it again, then you can't get out of this door today. I dare. Yin Dan heard the words, suddenly angrily in his heart, his eyes skyrocketed. A torrent of torrential weather emerged from Yin Dan. Suddenly, the whole square was turbulent, and the coercion of the mark-level virtual lords came to the audience instantly, forming an inverted tornado around him. This coercion is like a tiger that is swallowed by others, and flings towards the sword unparalleled. But that's it. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed, and the whole body burst into momentum, spreading out of the coercion of 8-star virtual men. This coercion speaks of the power of horror. Although it is far worse than Yin Dan, even standing in front of Yin Dan, the sword Wushuang, who is under the impact of Yin Dan's pressure, is like a flat boat in the sea of anger, as if at any time are overturned. But nonetheless, Jian Wushuang's footsteps have not been removed in the slightest, as if it were the pin of the sea god. No matter how the waves rise, he stands still. Look for death. Seeing this, Yin Dan suddenly became more angry. She was first refused to be humiliated by Jiushin, and almost put on a green hat. Now she was blocked by Jian Wushuang, and she was shocked positively. Where can he hold back at this moment? A killing heart jumped out. Ha! I saw in the void behind Yin Dan. A mouth was suddenly torn, a cyan arm protruded out of the void, and grabbed at the sword unparalleled. This arm is extremely dry, the meridians are crisscrossed, and the 5 fingernails are painted black, long and pointed. In front of this scratch the whole void is like paper, and it is torn instantly crack. The owner of this hand is really the corpse of Yin Dan, the Huai. Everyone looked at this scene, and suddenly his eyelids jumped. Yin Dan hits the fog double. This time, Wu Shuang is afraid to have trouble. If brother Yin Dan did not break through the trace level, maybe the two could fight. But now brother Yin Dan breaks through the trace level. Even if the fog double talent is even higher, 10 of him it's not enough. Yin brother Dan. Everyone talked quickly. Jian Wushuang saw this, his eyes flashed for a while, his mind quickly thought. Yandan's aggressive claw, in his opinion, was as flawless as a child's dance sword. Even if he didn't need to practice it, he could only break it with only the strength of an 8-star dummy. Also, if I am concentrating and developing in this refining Shinzong, I have never revealed my strength. I am afraid that I will never be able to climb to the top of the virtual universe in a short time. Knowing the peak powers of the virtual universe, then I am qualified to understand the true secrets. It is not possible to show a little strength today. In this way, it is also convenient for me to climb at an early date and find out the deployment of the virtual universe against the divine universe. With this in mind, Jian Wu's eyes flashed coldness. God corpse come. How? Suddenly, a whole body was shrouded in a black robe. Only a figure showing only his eyes appeared in front of the sword without double sides. An extremely sharp sword spirit burst out from this figure. This figure is a terrific corpse of Tai Luo, who has recovered to the state of elementary supreme. Chapter 4490. Howl. As soon as the extreme corpse Fong Tailuo appeared, the shocking sharp breath suddenly shocked everyone. This is the corpse of Wu Shuang. It is rumored that this corpse is the strongest corpse on the Coffin Hill. At first, Even the Lord Sovereign and the elders of the 5 great brothers shot together and failed to refine it. Scar. Scar level breath. This corpse has already reached scar level. No wonder the mists are not afraid of Brother Yindan at all. It turns out that they are relying on this. Huh. I saw that the corpse of Tai Luo was numb and stiff, and his fingers were raised to merge into a sword finger, and nodded towards the withered arm that was photographed in the void. In an instant, the endless sword energy erupted from the fingertips of Taro's corpse. Boom! A shocking loud noise came, and I saw that the arm that tore everything retracted instantly like an electric shock. Then, I saw that Yindan was backstepped by 3 steps, and his face flushed. It's not over yet. In the void behind Yindan, a painful growl was issued again, and a dried-up body covered with black hair fell out of the void. This corpse is Dahuai refined by Yindan. Defeat the enemy with 1 finger. Suddenly everyone exclaimed. They did not expect that Yindan, who was the first disciple of the crown disciple, who had broken through the mark of prestige, was directly repelled with a finger of Tai Luo's corpse. Asshole! Qi Yandan's face was iron blue, staring at Jian Wushuang and snarling. It was just my intention just now, let's come again. After he finished speaking, his whole body of power began to condense frantically, and the whole square began to tremble and shake. Okay. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed, and his mang rose sharply by 3 inches. He was just when the two were facing each other, and the sword was out of control. Enough! The master of the refining god frowned, and suddenly spoke freely. With this sentence falling, he was still surging just now, like a square plunging into the sea of anger, and then calmed down. An extremely powerful force separated Jian Wushuang from Yindan. Master! Seeing this, Xie Yindan just felt like he was so hard to get hold of it. The punch he wanted to make was hit on cotton, and his heart was bent to the extreme. Master, let me learn lessons from Wushuang. You taught him? Isn't it enough to shame? The refining god sovereign snorted, and then looked at Jian Wushuang and said, Miss Shuang, I ask you, what did you mean before? Why did you block Yin Dan Wei? The goal of Wu Jianshou to show his strength has been achieved. Therefore, seeing the master of the refining god forcibly interrupted his battle with Yin Dan, there was no emotion in his heart. He heard the words humble and arched his hands and calmly replied, Master Sect, I stopped Brother Yindan because Brother Yindan passed by me first and provoked his disciples first, saying that he would make them disciples and slaves. And the disciples were so anxious that they did the above. The master of the refining heard that he couldn't help looking at Yindan. His face sank. You say if you have to go well, you just have to shake a clever provocation. Now you can't get off the stage yourself? He shook his head, and the master of the refining scolded. What a fool! After taking a deep breath, the master of the refining looked back at Jian Wushuang and replied, Well, you and Yin Dansher went out the same door. In the future, I will be the mainstay of the refining of the rain. Just go on and fight each other. Understand? Well, let's stop this matter and let the party go. Pu Lian Shenzongzhu stood up and shook his head boringly. Yes. With the rise of the sovereign lord, many disciples in the square naturally did not dare to sit anymore, and they all got up again and gave respect to the lord. Miss Peryuit, Qi Yindan stared at Jian Wushuang with his eyes fixed on his forehead. If he is not in the refining sect now, he can't restrain his inner urge. He will kill the sword without double-clicking. Miss Shuang, rest assured, our future days are still long. You and me today, I will slowly settle with you in the future. After finishing speaking, Yin Dan strode away. When he saw Jioshan, there was a look of disgust in his eyes. It was this woman who caused his face to fall sharply today. He was afraid to take her back to become an accomplice. He just added a joke to himself, as if he picked up a sword. Something like, And you cheap, all things happen today because of you, wait for me to kill Wushuang, and then slowly calculate with you. Lung Lung hummed. Yin Dan stepped on the ground with his right foot, and the floor of the foot cracked suddenly, and a small pit was recessed, while he turned into a burr, and instantly rose into the sky, disappearing on the square outside the main hall of the sovereign. Wu Jusa saw Yin Dan leave, the heart that had been hanging, and finally fell to the ground. She looked at Xiang Jianwushuang gratefully and whispered a thank you. Wu Jianshou shook his head without paying more attention to her. After looking at Elder Moose Feng, he walked in the direction of the Lord of the Refining God. He still remembers that the Lord of the Refining God had told him that after the end of the Zhongmen disciples, there were still tasks assigned to him. Inside the Lord's hall, Gao Lian, the God Sovereign, took the first seat, watching that he did not leave with the flow of people, but followed him into the Shuang of the Sovereign's hall and nodded. Miss Shuang, originally the Sovereign wanted to wait for you to rest for a few days before telling you about the task. Since you are here, then this Sovereign will tell you now. Wu Jianwushuang took a deep breath and nodded. Master Zhongzhu, but it doesn't matter. It is good. The Master of the Refining God sect looked to the distance. He heard the words and did not rush to speak, but seemed to think about the words in his mind. After a while he said, Miss Shuang, do you know where our universe is sealed? Seal God's land. Wu Jianwushuang raised his eyebrow and felt a faint feeling in his heart. I was afraid that the Lord of the Refining God was about to say that it was one of the top secrets of this virtual universe. Yes, most people don't know the land of the gods. This Lord will talk to you today. Shen Lian's eyes glinted, and he said, the land of God is not one of the forbidden places in our universe, but the day after tomorrow. Almost tens of thousands of Suji, those who accompanied you when you started, came from the same place of power and came to our universe. These cosmic aliens are speculative, with fierce means, and after their identity is exposed, they will launch a killing ring in our virtual universe. These people are extremely powerful, and each person's cultivation is the same as that of the monarch, at least at the level of 6 marks. Among them, one person has a deeper and more unpredictable, strange method, and has the power to suppress the origin of life, and it is even more powerful than the sovereign. The Master of the Refining slowly said that Jianwushuang was at this moment, and his heart was suddenly shaken. This is Chapter 4491. Get burned. Chatter, chatter, chatter. Everyone in the crowd looked at Jianwushuang. The crowd looked at Jianwushuang with an extremely strange expression. Wushuang, a person with supreme talent, was also the person who Grand Elder Mi Feng had personally welcomed into the sect. Thanks. The person who took Yindon woman is actually Wushuang. There's going to be a good show to watch now. One of them is the most talented person in the sect, and the other is the leader of the disciples, the next sect master candidate in the eyes of the sect master. Now it's up to Lord Sect Master to make his choice. A series of discussions sounded. Yindan suddenly turned his head and stared at Jianwushuang with a fierce look in his eyes. Elder Shenlian's face also darkened instantly. On the other hand, the God Refining Sect's sect master, Void Master Ba Huang, who was originally a little angry, calmed down and frowned. Other than being Yindon master, he was more of the God Refining Sect's sect master. What he paid attention to was the art of balance. Previously, Yindan had asked him for Jiusha, and wanted him to personally ask for Jiusha and Yindan to become Dao companions. In his opinion, it was like a child asking for a beloved toy from him. Naturally, he could not do it. However, now with Wushuang in the middle, the situation was different. It was like a scale. Originally, the weight of the Jiusha and Yindan were completely different. Everything was leaning toward Yindan, so he did not mind agreeing to Yindon's request. However, with the addition of Wushuang, the weights on both sides of the scale suddenly became different. To be honest, as the God Refining Sect Master, he did not have any ill intentions toward Jianwushuang. After all, Jianwushuang had passed the Trial Foundation Stone's verification and had a peerless talent. Previously, he had mentioned the soul-searching technique in the Sect Master's hall only because he suspected that Jianwushuang was a spy sent by the Divine Power Universe. From the perspective of the big picture, he was naturally better off than Jianwushuang. After all, Jianwushuang was a member of the God Refining Sect. If Jianwushuang was doing well, the God Refining Sect would naturally be well. The two of them complemented each other, and were not enemies. If there were no accidents, Jian Wushuang would definitely become one of the pillars of the God-refining sect in the future. For a moment, the God-refining sect master did not know what to say. If Jiu Sha had really become Dao companions with Jian Wushuang, then the matter of Jiu Sha and Yin Dan had to be considered carefully. After a long while, he looked at Jian Wushuang with a frown and said in a deep voice, "Wushuang, is what Jiu Sha said true?" As soon as the sect master finished his words, Yin Dan looked at Jian Wushuang and said coldly, "Junior brother Wushuang, aren't you going a little too far?" Jian Wushuang remained silent and expressionless. However, in his heart, he was already extremely angry. What was this Jiu Sha trying to do? As early as when they were high up in the sky outside the sect master's main hall, Jiu Sha had opened her mouth and begged him to put on a show with her and reject the marriage between her and Yin Dan. However, Jian Wushuang had rejected her very clearly. He did not expect Jiu Sha to be so selfish. She did not care about his feelings at all, and publicly announced that he had pledged to marry him in the main hall. Jian Wushuang understood that he had been used by Jiu Sha. As for why Jiu Sha chose him, it was not because he was too charming. The two of them had only met 3 times, so there was no charm. The reason was simple. What Jiu Sha had her eyes on was Jian Wushuang's peerless talent. She believed that between Yin Dan and him, the God-refining sect master would definitely have a hard time choosing. However, she had never thought that after this matter was over, she could just apologize to Jian Wushuang and leave as if nothing had happened. But what would happen to Jian Wushuang? Jian Wushuang would definitely offend Yin Dan and become a thorn in the father and son's side. If it was an ordinary disciple, he would not be far from death if he incurred such hatred. Jian Wushuang's thoughts flashed quickly. He was naturally not afraid of Yin Dan and his father. To him, even if he were to tie Elder Shun Lian and Yin Dan together, they would not be enough to deal with him. However, he did not like the feeling of being used as a shield. Jian Wushuang took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "Reporting to the sect master, Senior Sister Jiu Sha mentioned something about a private marriage. This disciple, I don't know anything." Chatter. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd went into an uproar again. He had no idea at all. These words were simply amazing. Everyone's expressions changed. Jiu Sha, who was kneeling on the ground, felt as if a knife had been stabbed into her heart. Her delicate body trembled, and she almost fell to the ground. Her face turned pale. Looking at Jian Wushuang's cold and calm face, she could not help but laugh bitterly. "Are you really that heartless?" Yin Dan, Elder Shun Lian, and the God-refining sect master were all stunned. Even Elder Mi Feng, who was standing next to Jian Wushuang, was surprised. "Wushuang, are you saying this because you fear Yin Dan and the others? Don't worry. If that Jiu Sha is really the woman you fancy, I will definitely help you get her even if I have to throw away my face." Elder Mi Feng transmitted his voice to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang could not help but feel touched. Elder Mi Feng was a very competent elder. If Jian Wushuang had been born in this universe, he might have treated Elder Mi Feng the same way he treated Supreme Blood Wave. It was a pity that the two of them were not on the same path. Sighing in his heart, Jian Wushuang shook his head and replied, "Elder Mi Feng, there's no need to do this. I really have nothing to do with Senior Sister Jiu Sha." "All right." Elder Mi Feng nodded. Since Jian Wushuang had already said so, he would naturally not force him. "Ha ha ha ha, lowly servant, I'd like to see who can still stand up for you now." Yin Dan sneered. He first glared at Jiu Sha, then turned to look at Jian Wushuang with a sneer in his eyes. He looked at Jian Wushuang with satisfaction as if he was saying, "You're smart." Jian Wushuang could not help but frown. He did not like Jiu Sha's actions, but he was equally displeased with Yin Dan's gaze. "Sect Master, I beg you, please allow me to bring Jiu Sha back now." Yin Dan turned around and said to the God-refining sect master, "Yes, go ahead." The God-refining sect master nodded his head with a calm expression. The current outcome was even better for him. "Thank you, sect master." Yin Dan cupped his hands at the God-refining sect master, then looked at Jiu Sha again. He stretched out the corner of his mouth and licked his split lips. His lustful and cruel eyes swept over Jiu Sha's enchanting and perfect figure. After laughing, He stretched out his palm and grabbed Jiu. Suddenly, in the midst of Jiu's screams, she flew up and fell into Yin Dan's hand. Yin Dan picked up Jiu and walked out of the hall. However, just as he was about to pass by Jian Wushuang, he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly stopped. Chapter 4492. In the refining Shinzong, a round of blood moon-turned sky, the moon shadow was sparse, and the corpse roared again and again. In a corpse cave on the top of the Yanxian mountain, the elder Banshan strode in and sat cross-legged with sword. Elder Banshan, is there anything to visit late at night? Wu Jian blinked without eyes and said. As for the elder Luanshan, he had some suspicion in his heart. As to whether the guess was correct, it was up to the elder Banshan to come to him late at night. Elder Luan Banshan glanced at Jian Wushuang and asked, Miss Shuang, the husband has a few questions I want to ask you. Elder Banshan, but it doesn't matter. Wu Jian Wushuang nodded. Okay. Elder Banshan said then groaned for a moment and asked, Miss Shuang, have you heard about the aliens in the universe? Yes. Jian Wushuang heard the words, his eyes flashed, and he immediately replied. Okay. You said that you and halfway cosmic aliens have known each other halfway. They have never known each other before. The old man now asks you, in which star domain do you know them? Windfall star field. Wu Jinshuang replied without hesitation. He had long expected that someone would ask him carefully, and naturally he would not do no homework. The wind-falling star field is not too far away from the Lianshan zone, and it is not too close. The crowd is relatively rare. Presumably, no one will coincidentally stay in the wind-falling star field. Okay, then the old man asks you again, which star field do you come from? Elder Luanshan nodded and asked again. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed. He didn't answer, but stared at the elder Banshan tightly, and asked, Elder Banshan, what do you mean by coming here this time? It's better to say straight, why bother? After all, he is not a person in the void universe, and can't stand detailed interrogation. The elder Banshan, although he suspects in his heart whether it is from the divine universe, is a matter of great importance, and cannot afford to bet. If he is not right, then he is very likely to fall into a situation where he loses and loses. Miss Shuang, you don't need to care what the old man means, you just need to answer truthfully. Elder Luanshan said blankly. Wu Jinshuang heard the words, and could not help but be silent. After a long while, he took a deep breath and said, Liang Starfield. Liang Starfield? The elder Banshan heard a laugh and shook his head, saying, Miss Double, away from Yang Starfield and Windfall Starfield, one south and one north of Lianshan zone. If you come from Liang Starfield, why are you in the wind? Falling Starfield and those cosmic aliens? Jian Wushuang heard the words, and couldn't help but look cold, and when he was about to speak, he saw the elder Banshan continue to say, Further, Wushuang, our universe is not big or small, you can grow up to be a star-like man. It's not just by talent and retreat. It can leave more or less traces of growth in the universe. But the old man went to inquire. You have never heard of your name in the universe. You are like suddenly emerged from the universe. If you still want to argue, the old man can go to Liang Xingyu in person to see if anyone knows you. Wu Jian Wushuang heard his words, and narrowed his eyes slowly, and touched the hilt of the Taro Excalibur with his 5 fingers, and his thumb gently rubbed at the position of the hilt of the Terra Excalibur. There was a slight sound of the sword, and it sounded softly. After a while, Jian Wushuang seemed to think of something, and loosened the hilt of the tailored Excalibur, and smiled arrogantly. Elder Banshan, what can you say? Just say it. Wu Jian Wushuang wanted to understand. If Elder Banshan really wanted to expose him, then he didn't come by himself. I was afraid that the leader of the refining gods would already be in the ambush. But the divine power he spread out did not find any signs of ambush outside. After hearing the question, the elder Luan Banshan was silent this time, and looked at Jian Wushuang for a while, then said slowly, You are too cautious this time, not meticulous enough. If the Lianshan zone really moved a bit of investigation, you have no possibility to lurk. Jian Wushuang heard that his face had no emotional changes, but his heart was a jump. This sentence is already equal to express. I know, but things are urgent, not so much time to go one by one. Jian Wushuang replied in a deep voice. Elder Banshan sighed slightly and seemed to know the dilemma of Jian Wushuang. He replied, Be assured that on the day you first entered the ancestral gate, the old man has given you all these things to be clear. Refined some time ago, the gods sent someone to Liang's starfield to verify your information, and the old man also let everyone handle it properly. After a pause, Elder Banshan turned his head, looking through the corpse hole, looking far away from the starry sky of Wuxia, as if looking from this universe to another universe. It seemed to be nostalgic. His voice was a little hoarse. Miss Double, how is that starry sky now? Yan Jianwushuang heard nothing and did not answer. The elder Banshan did not ask any more. He knew that Jian Wushuang had a sense of vigilance even at this moment. This is understandable. After all, as the perspective of Jian Wushuang, it was impossible to rule out whether Banshan was counted as soon as he came out. Routine. However, Elder Banshan was talking to himself. At that time, 7 of us were ordered to come to this universe. I thought that we could quickly investigate the situation of this universe. However, it was too early to reveal our identity, and we ushered in the top power of this universe. Send friends, such as sending wind and flying across, have been killed. The palace owner took people to escape the birth, but the old man who was supposed to die, but picked up a life, and entered the refining god sect by mistake. Elder Wanshan said slowly. Jian Wushuang did not bother, but listened quietly. He knows that Banshan has been lonely for tens of thousands of chaos periods. And these words have been tens of thousands of chaos periods. He needs an object to listen to. His words, although the narrative is plain, but Jian Wushuang felt the tragic and dangerous and magnificent in that plain discourse. After a while, after Elder Banshan finished speaking, he rubbed his eyes slightly and said, Miss Shuang, in the past tens of thousands of years, the old man has not been able to get in touch with his hometown, and it is not easy to leave rashly, because the old man knows that Lord Elder God will definitely send him again. People come and continue the way we did not finish, the unfinished things. My old husband stared at tens of thousands of chaos times, and finally waited for you. This is the information collected by the old man during the tens of thousands of chaos periods in the refining god sect. If you have a way, please hand it over to the Lord God of the Face. This is extremely important. Don't let others know, because the old man doubts. We in this universe also have people in this universe, and we are in a high position. After saying that, Elder Banshan turned his right hand, and a bamboo tube appeared in his hand, handing it to Jian Wushuang. Chapter 4493. Divine Universe, who also has a virtual universe. Jian Wushuang frowned. In that moment, familiar faces flickered across Jian Wu's eyes. But Jian Wushuang thought for a long time, and couldn't completely lock the person who was sent by the virtual universe. Miss Shuang, the husband just doubts whether the person exists, and the husband cannot be determined. So we don't need to think about it now, we just need to be cautious. When the war breaks out again, this person will naturally emerge water surface. Elder Wanshan said with a deep voice. It makes sense. Jian Wushuang converged his thoughts, nodded his head, and took over the bamboo tube handed to him by Banshan. This bamboo tube seems to be lightweight, but it is extremely heavy. But it is the hard work of Banshan tens of thousands of Suji. Well, Wushuang, there is one more important thing when my husband comes this time. The elder Wanshan took a deep breath, and then doubled his right hand again. He held a hexagonal red crystal ball in his palm. A sheer force of incomparable sheer force emanated from it. This is Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly freeze. Elder Wanshan said diligently. Since the tens of thousands of virtual ages, the old man has spent most of his time researching this thing, except for collecting news in the refining deities. This thing, the old man calls it a virtual force nucleus, which is formed by the most fundamental force in virtual force. As long as this virtual force nucleus is swallowed, the virtual force inside can instantly change the structure of your body, allowing you to become a true falsehood. After swallowing this nucleus of virtual force, not only will you derive the most iconic thing of virtual men, that is, virtual stars or virtual marks, but also awaken your associated supernatural powers, virtual explosion. And the most important thing is that if you want to be transformed into divine power, you only need one thought, and you can convert virtual power into divine power. The virtual explosion will not disappear, and it will be displayed in the way of divine power. As for the effect, old man, I have been practicing Shinzong this time, but I haven't used it yet, but I think it should not be too weak. The words fell, and Jian Wu's eyes suddenly rose 3 inches. This thing, it's amazing. It can be said that with the existence of this virtual force crystal nucleus, it will truly break the barrier between the virtual universe and the divine universe, so that it will have a perfect fusion and sublime to the fullest. Calculating by individual and by average strength, one of the great reasons why the virtual universe is stronger than the divine universe is because the virtual universe has a killer more than the man of the divine universe. That is, the virtual associated supernatural power, virtual explosion. The horror of the virtual explosion. Even the sword Wushuang dare not to be underestimated. Its power is enough to compare all the moves in the Sword Warrior Tailu Sword Code, except 4 Seasons and Taro. What is this concept? Divine power universe, but not anyone, can be compared with Jian Wushuang. I can say that in the same realm, if the person of the magical universe is not an arrogant monster, he has far more power than the same realm, and he will only be crushed in the face of the vain in the same realm. And this virtual force nucleus, but can give the person of the divine power universe, has the ability to resist the court of the virtual universe chamber. The preciousness of this thing can be seen from this. Wu Jinshuang looked at Elder Banshan again, with a little more admiration in his eyes. Miss Shuang, swallow this nucleus of virtual power, swallow him, and you will be able to flow through the magical universe and the virtual universe without any flaws. Elder Luanshan said. No way. Wu Jinshuang heard the words and shook his head. This is Elder Banshan, an invincible supremacy of tens of thousands of chaos ages. How can he try to figure it out? No need to talk nonsense. Since the old man asked you to take it, you take it. And Mo Shui's daughter's delicate attitude. The elder Luanshan pushed the nucleus of virtual power into the hands of Jian Wushuang, and immediately turned around and walked out. This Qi Jian Wushuang nodded silently, and stowed it seriously. When walking to the door of the corpse cave, Elder Banshan stepped a foot, then turned his head and said softly, Miss Shuang, if you can really enter the land of God, if the old friends of the old man are still alive, remember to give them to the old man. Last sentence. My husband is fine now, don't miss it. After speaking, Elder Banshan no longer hesitated, and as soon as he stepped on, some thin and shy figures disappeared under the thin moonlight. Wu Jinshuang looked at the disappearing back of Elder Banshan, and there was a touch of complexity in his eyes. He suddenly remembered that, in the annals of the divine universe, there was a record that a Taoist named Moving Mountains had once coveted the universe and suppressed 9 days and 10 places. But somehow, the moving Taoists who were originally in the middle of the sky suddenly appeared in the universe. Within bizarrely disappeared. I'm afraid that this is too old for the elder Banshan, who was a stranger who disappeared in the past. After the elder Luan Banshan left, Jian Wu sat down cross-legged and carefully looked at the hexagonal red crystal ball in front of him. Is there an empty mark, awakening the associated magical power burst? Wu Jian's eyes flashed a thought, and after a moment of contemplation, he no longer hesitated, swallowing his virtual crystal core. Boom! Instantly, a sharp pain came from the sword Wushuang deity. Even if Jian Wushuang is the top 3-body chaos body in ancient times, it is torn instantly, and the whole body is burned like it is thrown into a furnace of hundreds of millions of degrees. Wu Jinsho could not help screaming, and the body burst completely. Next moment, the divine body was put together again, and the pain that seemed to distort the soul of the soul, with hundreds of millions of needles stuck in the pores, shattered his body again. In this broken way, Jian Wushuang could feel that an extremely horrific and powerful force was emitted from the core of the virtual force, and began to change the life structure of Jian Wushuang little by little, pushing it towards the virtual soldier. After dozens of crashes and reorganizations, the pain suddenly disappeared. A completely different breath than Jian Wushuang before burst out from Jian Wushuang. It's done. Wu Jian's face was pale and gasping slightly, and a lot of bean sweat beads condensed on his forehead. He glanced slightly sideways. On his left shoulder, 2 scarlet long marks like scars spread and twisted from his left shoulder. Wu Jianwushuang can feel that although he seems to have no change in the body and cultivation at this moment, in the meditation, there is something different. Is this virtual power? Wu Jinshuang felt the imaginary force rolling in the body like a river, and squinted his eyes. The next moment, instead of rushing to awaken the associated magical powers, he reached out and touched the black willow seal on his neck, pulling a sneer arc. It's time to get rid of you. Chapter 4494 The Land of Gods. The Void Universe, that came tens of thousands of void eras ago. They came from the same place as supreme martial artist Gong Yang, and the others. All of them are at least at the 6th scar level, which means they are invincible supremes. One of them is several times stronger than the God Refining sect master. Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered, and his thoughts began to run quickly. The time axis of the Void Universe and the Divine Power Universe that Jian Wushuang was in was similar. Tens of thousands of chaos cycles ago. It should have been around the time when the Great Catastrophe War had just ended. At that time, only that group of people had entered the Void Universe and had disappeared without a trace. Even though the God Refining sect master's words were rather obscure, to Jian Wushuang, it was obvious. The palace master of the Divine Life Palace. If Jian Wushuang had guessed correctly, the alien race the God Refining sect master had mentioned was none other than the team led by the palace master of the Divine Life Palace that had disappeared into the Void Universe. Jian Wushuang's mind was filled with thoughts, but he pretended to be listening. He continued to listen to the sect master of the God-refining sect talk about the land of gods. He understood that this land of gods was very likely to be inextricably linked to the disappearance of the Divine Life Palace's palace master. When the identity of this group of foreign races was exposed, our void universe immediately summoned the giant arms of the great beings at the 6th scar level and above to kill these foreign races. This time, almost half of the 6th scar level void masters in our universe were gathered to fight with this group of alien races in the small ring star field. Speaking of which, although the cultivation base of this group of outsiders is similar to ours, other than the strongest person who can suppress the life source, the rest of them are weaker than us in terms of combat strength. Very soon a great battle broke out. Almost all of the alien races were killed, and only the strongest of these aliens managed to escape with 2 or 3 people. Then, I don't know what kind of technique the strongest person used, but he actually dominated a star field and refined it into a forbidden area. He set up 999 restrictions, locking himself and the remaining 2 or 3 6 scar level experts in it. Not only was he unable to take a step out, but we also couldn't get in no matter how hard we tried. Moreover, the higher one's cultivation is, the stronger the rejection force will be when they step into the forbidden area. On the contrary, those with lower cultivation will not trigger the terrifying restrictive spells that can kill immortals and gods. As time passed, that forbidden land was left behind. We called it the land of gods, the god-refining sect master said slowly. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but squint his eyes. He finally knew the whereabouts of the Divine Palace master. Back then, outside the Divine Life Palace, Overlord Patriarch had said that the palace master of the Divine Life Palace had been trapped somewhere in the void universe. He must have been referring to this land of gods. It was no wonder that the palace master of the Divine Life Palace could not return. Lord Sect Master, the mission you mentioned must be related to the land of gods, right? Jian Wushuang asked despite knowing the answer. That's right. The sect master of the god-refining sect nodded and replied in a deep voice. It's been tens of thousands of void eras since that group of foreign people was trapped in the land of gods, and our Lord Void God used a great divine ability to seal off all the energy supplies in that area. In other words, those foreign people who were heavily injured will never recover from their injuries. For the first tens of thousands of void eras, we could still sense that the outsiders were trying to break through the seal and escape, but in the last 10,000 void eras, they've quieted down. They've never tried to break through the seal again. They're probably already like a lamp that's on its last legs. Wushuang, your mission this time is to enter the restriction and see what the situation is like. First, your cultivation is only at the star level, so the restrictions inside will not be triggered at all, and you can walk in safely. That group of outsiders has been worn down by tens of thousands of void eras. Even if they haven't fallen, they probably don't have much power left, so they won't be much of a threat to you. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and thought for a moment. He nodded and replied, I understand. Very good. Then Wushuang, you may leave first. You're not the only one going to the land of gods to explore this time. I'll also choose some disciples from the sect to go with you. Other than that, I'm afraid that the other top forces will also send their own heaven's favorites. Don't be careless and embarrass the god-refining sect, the sect master said slowly. Yes. After a few more words from the god-refining sect master, Jian Wushuang took his leave. After returning to the corpse cave on the top of the limestone mountain, Jian Wushuang immediately opened a ward to seal off all auras. To him, even if the god-refining sect master did not allow him to go to the land of gods, he would still find a reason to go. The palace master of the Divine Life Palace had stayed in the void universe for tens of thousands of chaos cycles. Even if he had been trapped in the land of gods for nearly all his time, he must have known a lot about the void universe. This was of utmost importance. In addition, Jian Wushuang also had some doubts and wanted to ask the palace master of the Divine Life Palace, provided that the palace master had not died. For example, what was going on with his life level? The more he cultivated, the more he realized that his life level as a special life form far surpassed that of a perfect special life form. Or rather, it was not a perfect level special life form at all. His life level had far surpassed the perfect level. After that, Jian Wushuang used the token given to him by the Cosmos God to activate the water mirror and report the matter to Cosmos God. Regarding the land of gods, Cosmos God did not seem surprised. It was obvious that he had already known about this. He only told Jian Wushuang to be careful, and then hung up the call. It was late at night. Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged on the stone bed and refined the tarot divine corpse. Knock, knock, knock. Just as Jian Wushuang was immersed in his cultivation and preparing to go to the land of gods, an unexpected person came and knocked on the door of Jian Wushuang's corpse cave. After removing the magic barrier, Jian Wushuang frowned and looked out of the corpse cave's door. He was suddenly stunned. Outside the corpse cave, under the blood-colored moonlight, an old man with white hair and a white beard, his face full of age spots, was standing quietly at the entrance of the corpse cave with his hands behind his back. Elder Pan Shan? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion. Pan Shan, one of the 5 great grand elders. What was he doing here? Wushuang, I have something to tell you. Am I not welcome? Pan Shan's expression was indifferent. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and said, Elder Pan Shan, what are you saying? Come in and sit. Jian Wushuang smiled and shook his head. He then stood up and extended his hand to invite Elder Pan Shan to enter the corpse cave. Chapter 4495. Qi Yandan. This person is the sole candidate for the refining of the sect of sect. The Lord has already decided on Kuching Datang. But with the advent of Jian Wushuang and the banquet held in the sovereign's hall that day, the dispute between Yandan and Jian Wushuang made the refining god's lord gradually disappointed with Yandan. Sensitive, irritable, hardworking, narrow-minded, so happy there is no city. This is the Yandan that the sovereign lord saw at the banquet that day. I ask, how can such a person take control of a sacred place to glory? That day, he didn't go to point out these things. But it was Yandan who said what he said. He was still his big disciple. He couldn't scold him in front of Manchu. And if he liked himself all speaking out, Yandan will inevitably be imbalanced and secretly resentful. Resentment, refining the Lord of God does not matter, but it is not necessary. On the contrary, Jian Shuang's performance that day made him feel a little different. I am not humble or overbearing, and look at ease. At the same time, the master of the refining looked at Jian Wushuang, and he could not help but utter a sentence from the bottom of his heart. There are thousands of thunders in your heart, but those who face the quiet lake can worship the general too. The extraordinary talent represents the highest growth limit of Jian Wushuang, and the extraordinary mind represents Jian Wushuang. He will never bring the refining Shenzong into a place of no end. For a moment, by shower reduced, and the candidate of the next refining god sovereign began to lean in the heart of the 8 poles. There was silence in the hall. The master of the refining god did not speak, and other people naturally did not dare to hustle. After a short while, the refining suzerain only said lightly, This suzerain summoned you today, presumably you also know why. He said the words fell, and the crowd had not spoken yet. Seeing Yandan stepped forward and said, Master Zong, I guess the mission is about to start? Yes. The lord of the refining god nodded, then looked at the crowd, and Shunsheng said, The Lord has just received the news. Other sectarian forces have sent their disciples to the land of God. Land of God? Yes. Wu Jinshuang, Fu Chen, and Yandan all bowed their heads. At this moment they don't know where they are. The 3 of them are the candidates to go to the land of the gods this time. Shuang 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 Shuang. When you leave Lianshenzong, I see you die. Wu Yandan bowed his head and leaned towards Jian Wushuang, his mouth sneered. A poisonous plan breeds in his heart. Jiang has no double-sided and expressionless, but also has a good idea in mind. If this Yandan acted obediently along the way, if he wanted to commit stupidity himself, he wouldn't mind sending him a ride. Well, let's all 3 of you. Be sure to remember that everything is compulsory, and be careful all the time to prevent others from the sect. The master of the refining Shinzong Shen opened his mouth. Then through his big sleeve, a giant bird resembling a bone dragon flew from the mountain behind the refining Shinzong. This giant bird has no hair, no flesh, only white bones and black eyes. At its back, a high platform is built, which makes people set foot. The three swords of Wuji and Wushuang stepped on one foot and immediately flew up, landing on the high platform at the back of the giant bird. Moaning, this giant bird stretched out his head and shouted, and immediately carried a shuttle of Jian Wushuang and other people, directly over 180,000 miles, left the Lian Shinzong, and blasted towards the land of Fengshan. Master Su Lian took a deep look at the place where the three swordsmen disappeared, shook his head, and recovered his eyes after a long while. Strolling in the hall, Elder Banshan also looked at the disappeared three people for a long time. Refining Shinzong Presbyterian Hall. The residence of the Elder Xia. Da-da-da. There was a rush of footsteps. A close disciple of an Elder Sickle walked in hurriedly. Master, just now Yandan has been with Wushuang and Fuchen, driving a giant bone bird, and left the refining gods. The trusted disciple knelt on the ground and whispered, "Oh, is this gone?" In the center of the hall, the Elder Sickle sitting cross-legged opened his eyes, and a flash of sharpness flashed in his eyes. "Okay, Elder Ben will go now. If the Lord Suzy asks where the Elder has gone, you say that the Elder has recently come to realize it, and went out to seek breakthrough opportunities. Understand?" Disciple understand. This trusted disciple quickly returned. Okay. Nodded with satisfaction. The Elder Shinxian stood up, stepped on his foot, and disappeared into the Elder's hall. Miss Double, this time the land of God is where your bones are buried. In the void, the voice of Sun Lung from the Elder Sickle was heard. At the same time, not far from the Lian Shinzong, there is a bright star. This place is close to the void forbidden area. But this is the place where the largest star thief group, the Red Whale Gang, is located in the nearby hundreds of millions of stars. This group of star thieves is notorious. They rob the passers-by who pass by in the starry sky all year round. The entire virtual universe gnashed their teeth, but they could not do anything about it. The reason is because the head of this Red Whale Gang is a four-marked vanity. Under the leadership of this four-marked virtual honor, the entire Red Whale Gang helped to the extreme. Even the even-marked virtual warrior saw a headache for a while, and he could obediently use his treasures to fight against the difficulties. The head of the Red Whale Gang is similar to the abdomen of a big whale among the stars. At this moment, in the original Red Whale Gang, the astounding head of the imaginary universe is daring, but he is obediently kneeling at the foot of a silver-haired young pupil. Ice masked small. When the news is received, the land of the gods is opened, and the people of the main forces of the virtual universe have sent all the Tianjiao disciples under the door to the land of gods to break the restrictions and look for the universe. Alien. The big master shivered, and the atmosphere didn't dare to breathe. I can see that this big master is extremely afraid of this silver-haired young man. Okay. Tong Yinfa Bingtong's youth nodded expressionlessly and asked, Luo Ming, is this person asking you to send someone to practice the sword warriors? Inquired by Shinzong. Master Hui Bingbing, I have been asked by the younger. There is no one named Jian Wushuang in the disciples of Lian Shinzong. Instead, there is a person named Miss Shuang. Through this selection of entry disciples, he entered the Lian Shinzong. www.novel is a rare qualification for refining the Emperor Shinzong. Miss Double, the silver-haired young pupil narrowed his eyes, sneered at the corner of his mouth, and said to himself, Jian Wushuang, you are so fatal that you haven't died that day, but entered the refining gods sect by concealing the sky and the sea. What superb qualification has he become, disciple of Tianjiao? He shook his head, and Yinfa Bingtong's youthful words turned sharply, and he continued to ask, I ask you, how is the situation of Wushuang now? Wushuang, back to master. According to the small eyeliner return, that Wushuang has left the refining Shinzong and followed the other two disciples to the land of God's seal. He went to the land of God. Infa Bingtong youth frowned, and then laughed. Okay, sword unparalleled. Then this seat is waiting for you in the land of the gods. After saying that, he bowed his head toward the original big gang of the red whale and instructed, Luo Ming, get ready, I'll wait to go to the land of the gods. Yes, Grandpa resigned and congratulations. After Tong Da headed down, the silver-haired ice pupil looked up, looking far away from the void, and there was a sense of coldness in his eyes. For this person, it is as if he and the sword Wushuang entered the icy supreme universe of the virtual universe. Chapter 4496. At the same time, farther from Lian Shinzong, in the heart of a star, an old man with an elegant temperament, a clear face and a cautious look, slowly exhaled a stale air. It's been a long time, and those who purify me and kill me should have gone. The old man narrowed his eyes, and thoughts flashed in his eyes. He is not someone else. It is precisely in the selection of the disciples of refining gods to escape the birth of the Ram Supreme. On that day, when the disciple was selected, he saw that his identity had been taken apart and ran away first. However, he was fatal and escaped from the hands of several trace-level virtual men. Later, he got into the closed heart of the earth, and has been in retreat until now. Hey! Streams of light passed over the stars. Immediately, the Ram Supreme heard a discussion, sounding from the mouth of the passing figure. Have you heard that the ban on the land of the gods is loosening this time? Each case has sent Zhong Nijio to the land of the gods to find out. I heard that the land of God hides a big secret. Shi babble. I vaguely heard that in the land of God, suppress people who are not our universe. What? Not people in our universe? Is there another universe? Be quiet. I heard one of our ancestors talk about this, but it's a secret of the heavens. Don't tell it. The discussion sounded, and the ram, who was hiding deep in the earth's heart, raised an eyebrow. Seal the land? Suppress people who are not in this universe? The ram's eyes flashed faintly, feeling like he had grasped some big secret. Looks like I must go through this land of God. I don't know what happened to Jian Wushuang and others after all these years. Did they escape and hunt that day? While his thoughts flickered, the ram treated himself to the high altitude. When one person placed an order, his right hand broke through the ground and turned into a giant hand. Boom! The single vanity was a 7-star vanity with a large elephant trunk and fan ears. Looking at the huge hand shadow that suddenly broke through the sky and covered the sky, it was too late to use the virtual technique to resist, and he was arrested. Hold it in the palm of your hand. Soon, the ram deep in the heart of the earth rose to the sky, opened up the kingdom of God, and threw it in. After a while, the Ram Supreme stepped out of the void with satisfaction, and he had got the news he wanted. The land of God, the old man is here. The next moment, he stomped with his right foot, and the whole man burst out, rushing away in the direction of Fengshen. Within the virtual universe, with the loosening of the ban on the land of the gods, many top forces sent Tianjiao in the zone to the land of the gods to find out. Therefore, the universe became very lively at once. In the vast sky, a bird with open wings and huge bones, thousands of feet wide, is moving fast. Its speed was extremely fast. Its body was moving forward hundreds of thousands of miles. Its wings cut through the void, and it made a huge sound boom. Jian Wushuang's negative hand was standing on the high platform at the back of the bone. Because the speed was too fast, the strong wind generated across the face like a knife. This strong wind is extremely sharp. If it is an ordinary starburst, it is purely physical resistance, for fear that it will be blown away by this strong wind. However, this terrifying wind is only able to blow Jian Wushuang's hair. Not even a trace of white marks on him. Fu Chen among the three was not so easy to deal with the wind, and he saw that he could only run the virtual force continuously to form a protective cover to constantly resist this divine power. He looked at Yin Dan and Jian Wushuang, who were safe and sound on the high platform. Yin Dan is able to resist this smashing wind. He is not surprised. After all, Yin Dan has already broken through to the mark level, and the difference between mark level and virtual level is like Wuxian fan. And this sword is unparalleled, and the realm is almost the same as him. How can it be so easy to resist this gust of wind? Fu Chen couldn't help but think secretly that he was able to show his talents in the Zongmen disciples. But I was afraid that there was a large part of the reason, because the Wushuang did not participate in the contest. Yin Dan stood behind Jian Wushuang, and his lips kept humming. He was hesitating whether to kill the sword without double-clicking now. Just now his father, Elder Shenxian, has sent him a letter. Elder Shenxian has left the refining Shinzong, and is rushing towards them. It won't be long before the two can merge. The Elder Sickle is a 3-mark practice. Yin Dan was confident. By the time, with the power of his father Shenxian, the two would work together to kill the sword unparalleled, but to turn things over. After thinking a long time, well, wait until you return from the land of gods, and then find a chance to kill this child. Yin Dan's eyes flashed, and he took a deep breath, eliminating his immediate intention to kill the sword without double-clicking. Standing in front of the high platform, facing back to Yin Dan's sword, Wushuang naturally felt Yin Dan's fleeting murderous power. Shaking his head, Jian Wushuang didn't focus on his heart, and continued to look up. After almost a year, a lonely starry sky gradually became lively. In addition to the huge bone bird stepped by the 3 swordsmen Wushuang, some strange means of transportation also came from all directions. For example, a giant golden yellow gourd sits on the gourd, with a group of young people wearing black long coats, with raised eyes on the eyebrows. At the top of the gourd, a vertical flag is inserted, and the letters Tianmen are written. Oh, are these rabbits from Tianmen here? Yin Dan narrowed his eyes, and made a cold hum in his mouth. And this group of disciples also saw the 3 Yin Dan standing on the huge bone birds, and sneered at the corners of their lips. Isn't this the defeat of Zongmen at the Zongmen exchange contest that year? It seems that there is no one in refining Shinzong, so that such a role has led the team into the land of gods. He shook his head while talking, with a look of contempt. It can be seen that the two obviously have long been hostile. The words fell. Yin Dan's face suddenly became gloomy. Xiankong, the heroes don't mention the bravery of the year, and the momentary victory is nothing. We have done it again this time. Yin Dan said a little ugly. Ha ha ha, how difficult is it? Don't cry this time, and call your old ghost father to save you. The leader of the gate of this day laughed loudly, and then led the team away. Jack, looking at the proudly leaving Tianmen team, Yin Dan's eyes flashed. When his eyes turned, he saw Jian Wushuang smiled at him with a smile, and he was so angry that he suddenly exclaimed, Miss Shuang, what are you doing to me? I tell you that the door in our refining Shinzong have always been hostile. If you have anything to do with me, you're not half good. Chapter 4497. Time is in a hurry, and the time is over. Along the way, Jian Wushuang Yindan and others saw a lot of disciples from all directions. These popular Yuxuanang, with a strong spirit, have been repaired to an average of more than 6 stars. And even the strong ones have reached the mark level. But the highest, that is a mark because the cultivation is higher, the greater the face of the prohibition and rejection of that land of God. Many of them recognized Yen Dan, either friendly, or cold-hearted, and can see that the refining Shenzong is still quite famous in the virtual universe. A moment later, a huge star field appeared in front of everyone. The land of gods is here. I saw that around this star field, countless battleships or flying magics swept the void, and the Tianjiao disciples from the top sectarian forces were waiting for each other, waiting for the weakest restraint in this land of gods. Is this the land of God? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and looked up. This land of gods is said to be a star field, but it is actually inappropriate, because it consists of a matrix of forbidden formations. A total of 99 bands. Each prohibition is like a halo of discs, blocking everything, and a total of 99 prohibitions are superimposed and integrated together, which immediately forms a horrifying formation of immortality. On the 99 bands, Xianhui permeated and slightly twisted, and directly annihilated the void, forming a 10-foot wide void belt to isolate all vitality. These 99 bands blocked all the way in, and also cut off the way out. According to Elder Moose Wind, the power of these 99 bands, even if it is a 6-marked vanity, has to be peeled if it is immortal, and it can only be withdrawn halfway. Going in one step, it will instantly disappear and disappear. Its horror is evident. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and felt the 99 forbidden breaths, but he felt extremely familiar. This is the taste of divine power. In addition, he also felt a special breath of life with him, at the origin of the 99 bands. This made him determined that he would arrange the 99 forbidden people, who made the entire virtual universe helpless. If he did not guess wrong, it would be the one who had no information, and had lost tens of thousands of lives in Chaos Lord of the Palace Shrine. For a moment, Jian Wushuang's heart was filled with emotion. He began to expect that the Lord of the Palace of Life Palace had not fallen yet, and the two could meet in this land of gods. Time passes slowly. The crowd did not move, but began to wait for the 99th time when the prohibition was the weakest, and then quickly entered. Gradually, there are constantly Tianjiao disciples from the top Zongmen, walking into this land of gods. Rumble! A bonito flag hung with a spur bone. A huge boat like a whale broke from the distance, and was overwhelming and staring across the stars. In this huge boat, there was a wild laugh. Little bunnies, we're here for the red whale. The red whales are acting, everyone is away. Quack quack, this land of gods, we red whale helped occupy. I saw countless robbers staring at the arrogant disciples in the gates of this boat, laughing loudly. On the deck of this boat, the ice-cold pupil of the silver-haired Bingtong stood supremely with a hand full of pride. Behind him, the original head of the Red Whale Club, Ming Luo, bowed his knees slightly, lowered his hands, and wherever there was a half-point thief that ran across the universe, he was respectful like an old servant. Everyone looked at the Red Whale gang that came out of nowhere. Their pupils shrank, and their faces slightly changed. The stars of the red whale are stolen. This bunch of rotten fish and rotten shrimp, why are they everywhere? Damn! What are these cuckoo sticks doing to seal the land of gods? And who is that standing on the deck? Why are the great heads of the red whale gang standing behind, as if to worship the master? Many disciples of the Holy Land sect whispered, the red whale helps these star thieves, which is too infamous in the virtual universe. They are not strong in individual strengths, but they work in groups, using means, and there is a 4-mark master Luo Ming who is the head of the cattle, can be described as extremely difficult. Even if some traces of vanity fall into their hands, if they are not good, they will hate the spot. They never thought of why the Red Whale Gang appeared here. Moreover, looking at it like that, it seems that the Red Whale Gang has changed hands. The silver-haired ice-pupil young man standing on the deck was as impassable as a mountain unfathomable. It is estimated that it will only be stronger than Luo Ming, the original red whale. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help looking at each other. Their hearts were sinking. If this group of red whale gangs waited until they entered the land of the gods, they stood at the exit and robbed them in the fire, then it was over. Skeleton on the platform, Jian Wushuang also looked up and looked at the gang of red whale gang members. How can he not see the person headed on the deck? This silver-haired young Bingtong is not Bingyu Supreme or who? Bingyu Supreme also noticed the sword unparalleled standing on the back of the giant bone bird. The enmity between the two has spread from the divine universe to the void universe, and has already reached the point of immortality. At this moment, the enemies faced each other, and the eyes of the two gathered in the air, which immediately gave birth to a fierce invisible spark. A sneer sneered gradually at the corner of Bingyu Supreme's mouth. His lips lightly opened. He opened his mouth silently towards the sword, and spit out 8 words. The sword had no expression on both sides, and he recognized these 8 characters. Seal the land of God and fight it. Jian Wushuang couldn't help flashing a cold rush in his eyes. Originally, when he first entered the virtual universe, he also wanted to temporarily put aside his old hatred of the Bingyu Supreme. After all, the divine power of the universe was ahead of him, but life and death could not be more than a thought. No old hatred of the old hatred could be compared with the endangered universe. But this Bingyu Supreme, however, entered this virtual universe, and then he was selected by the introductory disciple of the refining god sect, and he wished to put him to death. It is intolerable, he is unparalleled, but he has never been a soft egg of the virgin. Okay, then in this land of God, settle the new hatred and the old hate together. Jian Wushuang murmured to himself. A flash of icy murderous flashed in his eyes. Red whales helped the boat. Master Bingao, the kid who refines Shinzong is Wushuang. Does this kid have a holiday with the adult? Do you need to shoot now and kill him in place? The red whale gang leader Luo Ming, who stood behind Bingyu Supreme, like an old servant, noticed the collision of Bingyu Supreme and Jian Wushuang's eyes. Just because you want to kill him? Bingyu Supreme looked down at Luo Ming and shook his head disdainfully. Immediately, a bitter resentment poured into his eyes. This man must be killed by me. I want to peel him and cramp and feel the worst torture in the world. Luo Ming, bowing her head, heard the words and her heart trembled. What great hatred is between the two men. Let's go into the land of the gods first. This battle with this person is inevitable today. Let's do it in the land of the gods. After a moment, Bingyu Supreme took a deep breath. His expression gradually returned to calmness, and said lightly. Chapter 4498. Time Walk. A horrible coercion spread from the land of the gods. More and more people gathered outside the land of the gods. Everyone is waiting for the 99th band to be the weakest. This is the rule that tens of thousands of people in the virtual universe have found out from these 99 prohibitions since the Xian dynasty. There is a lack of heaven, and it is naturally impossible for these 99 bands to reach a complete state of completeness. According to countless powerful deductions and calculations in these tens of thousands of virtual periods, it is learned that the 99 prohibitions continue to operate, but every hundreds of virtual periods, this overlaps, and the continuously running 919 bands, there will be a separation of a jaw-stick time. And these 99 prohibitions will have a weakest channel entrance during this time of separation of Huaxiang. As long as it is modified to be shallow, it will most likely not trigger the destructive power of the of immortality into the abdomen of the land of the gods. Now everyone is waiting for the moment when the 99 ban is separated. In the void, an old man with a clean and elegant face looked silently at Jian Wushuang and Bingyu Supreme. He emerged from the earth's heart. And then came the Supreme Ram. Well, when the four of them entered the virtual universe together, now it looks like this. Jian Wushuang entered the refining god sect and became a Tianjiao disciple like Sun Zhongtian, and the Bingyu Supreme became the leader of one party. But I was alone. You can only hide in the dark. It's terrible. The Ram supremely touched his short beard, shook his head for a while and sighed. But looking at it this way, it seems that Lingyu guy didn't escape? Thinking of Lingyu, he was silent for a while. Just wait until you get into the land of God, and then look for a chance to see if you can get online with them. After thinking for a while, the Ram Supreme decided not to move, and waited until he entered the land of the gods. 3 more days passed. All of them opened their eyes wide, and were reluctant to slack off for a moment, for fear of missing the 99 forbidden separation. Rumble. In the heaven and earth universe, the 99 prohibitions roll like a grinding disc, releasing horrific power, crushing the void, and then exploding. These 99 prohibitions are like the 99 apertures that overlap, and together they can destroy the world, but with their circulation. Finally, the 99 ban. There was a short separation. A narrow entrance appeared in front of everyone. It's now. Instantly, countless people flashed out of their eyes, stepped on their feet, and rushed into the land of God. At this moment, the starry sky is covered by the phoenix gods. Countless dark shadows run through the imaginary force, burst into the sky, and rush into this entrance. At the moment when Jian Wushuang and Bingyu Supreme appeared, the footsteps soared into the sky, and they shot towards the entrance. The two looked at each other, sparks sparkling in their eyes, and the fighting spirit was surging. For the two, this time into the land of the gods, their opponents are only each other. These virtual universe people will be rejected by these prohibitions, but they will not, because these 99 prohibitions are based on the strength of virtual power to determine the power of the prohibition. Therefore, the higher the cultivation in the virtual universe, the harder it is to enter the land of the god, and the greater the counterattack force, the lower the cultivation is, the more likely it is to hide the sky and trigger the prohibition. For Jian Wushuang and Bingyu Supreme, as long as they release their divine power, they will naturally be unobstructed. Boom! Suddenly, dozens of notes of light hit the entrance of the land of the god. The crowd was extremely fast, and they continued to fly forward, and quickly passed the outermost void. If you divide the land of the gods into 3 levels, they have now passed the first level. Suddenly, what? Located in the forefront of this group, there was a sudden terrifying scream. Chapter 4499. A dash. The scream screamed loudly from the very front of the group that entered the land of gods. What happened? What happened? What's up? Suddenly, everyone was sprinting in the footsteps, and his face was startled. It looks like someone has killed the ban ahead of time. Everyone quickly looked up, and saw the first arrogant 8-star virtuoso, who was rushing at the first, and the aperture laser that was split horizontally and vertically, just like a tofu, was cut directly from the waist and cut into countless pieces. The annihilation force carried in the forbidden aperture directly destroyed this Tianjia disciple, and the dead cannot die anymore. Seeing this scene, everyone in the presence took a breath of cold air, scalp tingling for a while. The person who fell just now is not an unknown junior, but the first disciple of the gray primitive in the center of the virtual universe. He is also one of the arrogant arrogants in the universe. He unexpectedly died here silently. For a while, the original people were still relaxed, and their hearts sank immediately. At this time, they only remembered that the land of God was a 6-mark vanity, a death-forbidden place that they dare not easily enter. The extremely fast pace suddenly slowed down. Everyone carefully fumbled, marching forward, and continued to deepen the land of God. After a while, what? Another scream came, and a Tianjiao disciple died again in the power of restraint. This makes everyone feel cold, and the pace that has become extremely slow has become like walking on thin ice. However, Rao is so unable to prevent death. From the death of this second disciple, death and fall, like a chain reaction, continue to happen. The iris radiates a faint white on, sweeping continuously from all directions. The iris speed is still not fast at first, but as people continue to deepen, the speed suddenly becomes faster and faster. This circle is blank, like a beheading head, silently harvesting the lives of everyone present. Suddenly, the entire land of the gods was screaming and shouting, and everyone began to urge the virtual power supernatural powers, constantly moving around, avoiding this white circle of light. However, with the successive outbreak of virtual power, the circle formed by the power of the prohibition was blank, and the speed of harvesting life suddenly became faster. A circle of Baimang chopped it diagonally. Jian Wushuang slightly tilted his head and easily escaped. Yan Dan, who is behind Jian Wushuang, is also easy to deal with, without putting much pressure on him. But dusting was difficult, and the response was extremely panic, with sweat on his forehead. Just when the second Baimang slashed straight towards Jian Wushuang was just about to dodge. Miss Shuang, here today is your buried place. Virtual explosion dash. Suddenly, Yan Dan behind Jian Wushuang sneered. His eyes flashed fiercely, countless red virtual forces condensed in his hands, and formed a red ball the size of a basketball, slamming towards Jian Wushuang. What he waited for was this moment. Now this moment has finally arrived. The first step is the power of horrific restraint to destroy the gods, and the next step is his fierce attack. He is confident that Jian Wushuang has no way to go, and his death is coming. In the distance, I have been watching the Bingyu Supreme for this scene, and I couldn't help raising my eyebrows, and immediately laughed. Swords warriors, it seems that this seat is not just waiting to see you. Even the refining Shenzong you just entered, there are brothers and sisters who want to kill you and then quickly, to be a man to you failed. Shaking his head, Bingyu Supreme did not rush to shoot. He knew Jian Wushuang, and naturally knew that the sight in front of him could not pose any threat to Jian Wushuang. Now is not the time for him to fight with Jian Wushuang, is it? Feeling the near burst of power behind him, smashing at him quickly, Jian Wushuang's brow slightly lifted. The whole Bodhi's virtual force was transformed into divine power, and he turned to look at Yan Dan. He faced the calmness of his face, whether it was the oblique circle from the oblique splatter, or the virtual explosive ball that was severely dropped. Ha, is this ready to die? Yan Dan suddenly laughed when he saw this. When he saw this, his pupils shrank. However, at this moment, he can hardly protect himself. How can he be a champion for the sword unparalleled? He could not help but sigh slightly. Laugh. Next moment, Yan Dan's smile freezes suddenly, and his body freezes. Fuchen was also dumbfounded, with an incredible expression on his face. I saw that the forbidden force that beheaded countless Tianjiao fell to Jian Wushuang's position about 3 inches, and it seemed that he saw the breath of Jian Wushuang. It was actually a turn, and he opened the sword slightly. This is not the end. The virtual explosive ball that was blasted out by Yan Dan and destroyed all was actually held out by Jian Wushuang and grasped directly. Immediately, Sword Wushuang closed with 5 fingers and grasped gently. Boom! This exploding orb crashed directly. How can this be? Yan Dan stared blankly at Jian Wushuang, trembling. His eyes were full of ghost-like horror, and he almost fell from the air. This. Fu Chen also opened his mouth wide, his expression shocked to himself. Fog double. How did it happen? I just want to be alone. But why do you want to die? The sword looked down at Yan Dan without expression on both sides, and there was no emotion in his eyes. What I just did seems to be a trivial matter for sword warriors. Yan Dan swallowed his saliva, and for a moment, he didn't know how to speak. A big terror between life and death came to him like a rolling wave. Facing Jian Wushuang's indifferent eyes, Yan Dan fell like an ice cellar, and his liver and gallbladder were cracked. A trace of virtual power seemed to be imprisoned by all, making him not even do a simple struggle. Become more familiar in your next life. Shaking his head, Jian Wushuang's fingers flicked, an immense force surging, shot from Jian Wushuang's fingertips. A muffled noise came out. Yan Dan's head and eyebrow center position was suddenly pierced by a blood cave with finger thickness. Puff! Yan Dan's pupils gradually collapsed, her face lost her figure, and she fell stiffly. Feng Rui's fierce sword qi has already destroyed his source of life in an instant. Puff puff. At the next moment, the iris formed by countless restraining forces came, cutting Yan Dan into countless pieces. One finger spike. Fu Chen's eyes looked at the scene in shock. A cool air, straight from the back of his head. Suddenly, the entire back of Fuchen was wet with cold sweat. Chapter 4500. Yin Dan, who has broken through the marks, led by the disciples of Refining God sect, was killed by Jian Wushuang in one finger? Su Fuchen stared at Jian Wushuang dully, his throat rolling, and he kept swallowing. What a big deal! A big deal is coming. The main disciple of the Refining Shinzong master, the next master of the Refining Shinzong chosen by the suzerain, was killed by Jian Wushuang in this way. What strength is this Miss Double? Sun Fuchen's eyes were frightened and his legs were shaking. Next moment, he saw Jian Wushuang's eyes falling on him. This could make him shiver uncontrollably, and his heart was cold. I didn't see anything. Sun Fuchen swallowed his throat, and his trembling subconscious blurted out. Qi Jianhui's eyes flickered slightly, looking at Fu Chun with a look of horror, could not help but feel a little dumb. Is he afraid of killing himself? He shook his head, and Jian Wushuang didn't care about him. As soon as he stepped on his feet, he suddenly blasted toward the center of Fengshan like a cannonball. Far away, a group of disciples who had had a quarrel with Yin Dan outside the land of the gods noticed this scene, and suddenly their pupils shrank. Yin Dan, did he die in the hands of the same door? There was a dignified meaning in the eyes of the first disciple of Tianmen. And then he turned to look at a Tianmen disciple next to him and asked, Tianxian, I have been retreating before. I do indeed know the external affairs. Disciple? Who is that person? The disciples next to the first disciple heard the words, and replied with respect. Master, you don't know. I heard that this time, the selection of initiating disciples of the religious sect has appeared, and there is a demon of inferior qualifications called Wushuang. This is the person who wants to come. Miss Double. The first apprentice at Tian raised an eyebrow and smiled. This person is a bit better than Yandan's waist. After saying that, the first disciple shook his head, paused for a moment, and then groaned. The Refining Shenzong and our Tianmen have always been at odds, and now Yandan is dead. I'm afraid that this person is very likely to become the patriarch of the future Refining Shenzong. If there is a chance later, it would be better to kill this crowd. Yes. The disciple nodded quickly. The other side. Sun Bingxian looked at this scene supremely, with a touch of irony in the corners of his mouth. This sword Wushuang is really a disaster star, and it will happen wherever it goes. The next moment, he stepped on his right foot, and immediately turned into a skyward sword, chasing straight towards the sword. The end of the crowd. The cricket ram extremely touched his nose and grinned at the corner of his mouth. Neither of these people is the master of cessation. He shook his head. He also flew in the same shape, turned into a bright streamer, and flew forward. Seal outside the land of God. Elder Shinsickle meditating silently. She seemed to sense something, her brows frowned, her face slightly changed. Immediately, he flipped his right hand, and an ancient lamp was held in his palm. The faint candlelight shook the ancient lamp, and then in a blink of an eye, the flame on the ancient lamp's wick shattered suddenly. Seeing this scene, the Elder Sickle's face changed drastically, and he stood up suddenly, staring sternly into the land of Fengshan, exclaiming, Yin Dan Wuer. I saw that the Elder Sickle had fallen into rage, countless green tendons on his forehead, and his facial features were distorted. Who killed my son? The Elder God of Falcon snarled, and his aspirations cracked to the extreme. A breath of terrible horror emanated from him. That magic lamp is bound to a trace of the essence of life of Yin Dan. The stronger the breath of Yin Dan's life, the stronger the candlelight on this magic lamp. On the contrary, the weaker the breath of Yin Dan's life, the light on the lamp naturally dims. And just now, he saw with his own eyes the light on that magic lamp went out. Totters die like lamps. Now that the lights are off, naturally, Yin Dan has fallen. Angry, a anger that could not be described in any words, nearly burned the Elder Sickle. Qi Yin Dan is dead. Yin Dan, his only son, had high hopes. In the future, Yin Dan, the son of the suzerain, who was going to reign, would die in the land of God. A muffled noise came out, but the Elder Sickle was angry, and could not help spit out blood. His hair was exploded, and he became gray immediately, and his lips became pale and extremely dry. The eyes of the elder sickling sickle were scarlet, and he stared at the land of Fengshan trembling with anger. Who killed my child in the end? Poor Green in this seat, and falling Huangquan will kill you, but also kill all your loved ones in this world. Elder Shinshin sickened with anger, his eyes flashed fiercely, and his complexion was extremely extreme. There was a hint of intuition in his heart. I killed the Yindan people. Most likely it was the sword unparalleled in their eyes as a prey. Missed double. Must be missed double. The elder sickle stared at the land of God, and his eyes flashed with struggle. He could not wait to enter the land of God now and kill the sword unparalleled. But when he saw the circle of forbidden apertures, there was a rush of fear. After a short while, Elder Shenxian took a deep breath and sat down cross-legged. Miss Shuang, you better pray that you are dead in it. Otherwise, if you come out alive, this seat will definitely peel you off and cramp, and use all kinds of torture methods to make you regret being born in this world. The evil spirits continued to grow in the eyes of the elder falcon. In the land of God's seal, after Jian Wushuang passed many arrogances, he suddenly lost his breath and directly transformed the full force into the divine power. Boom! Medium and supreme practice spread instantly and rushed to the sky, causing thousands of thunders to blow. A breath that shared the same origins as these 99 bands permeated the quartet. The horrible power of the bands immediately resembled Ru Yen when she saw her parents. She directly swept away the sword and let it pass. Behind Jian Wushuang, the half-step invincibility of Qi Bingji Supreme, only one line away from the Supreme, the same horrible practice, the same skyrocketing. The two of them, one after the other, broke into the deep place of Fengshan directly like two meteors. Tianha, medium supreme? This guy broke through again. Extremely felt the breath of the great shore from Jianhui's body, and her pupils shrank slightly. However, your sword is unparalleled. Why is there no chance for me? Bingshuan snorted supremely, glanced down at a bag hanging around his waist. Chapter 4501. Being extreme and sword unparalleled, sprinting forward and backward. Being extreme holds the Excalibur sword, but he is not in a hurry to shoot at the sword. Although he hated Jian Wushuang's bones and wished to sacrifice his flesh, he was not a stupid person, and was not impulsively stunned. He knew in his heart that compared to killing Jian Wushuang now, the most important thing before him was to enter, seal the land of the gods, and see if the team sent by the gods of the year was still alive. If is still alive, he will naturally have a chance. Even if falls, presumably the team's Qinkuan ring naturally remains here. That is the invincible supreme relic. He couldn't help but be indifferent. Thinking of this, Bingyu Supreme stepped faster. Supernatural power ice wing. He whispered, and frost condensed on his back, forming a pair of long and bright ice crystal wings. Wow! His wings fluttered, and the speed of the ice mastiff skyrocketed suddenly. He was behind Jian Wushuang. Between the light and flint, he surpassed Jian Wushuang and ran forward. Okay. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes at the Bingyu Supreme who sprinted past him. Will he not know? What is the intention of this Bingyu Supreme hug? Dragon Blood Mystery Kai. Jian Wushuang sank in a low voice, and the next moment, his already extremely fast speed soared again, a level that was directly equal to the ice mastiff who had passed him. The two of them were very fast. You chased me in an instant and disappeared in place, and swept deeper. This is the bitter ram who is chasing behind. How come these two guys are so fast? The cricket ram smiled helplessly. He has already let out his breath. Jian Wushuang and Bingyu Supreme should know that he exists, but they just ignored him. Oh, let's go. He shook his head, and the ram's supreme figure flew and followed closely. 51 bands. Prohibition. 85 prohibitions. Prohibition of 97 roads. Instantly, Jian Wushuang and Bingyu Supreme turned into horizontal thunder, straight through dozens of prohibitions, and shot towards the land of the gods. After half a column of incense, a choke-like barrier appeared in front of the two. As if a round bowl buckled down, the light exudes a faint yellow light, leaving the two outside. This is the last ban. Breaking through this prohibition is the real land of God's seal. And it is the place where the Lord of Life Jingu Palace and others are located. Wu Jianwushuang arrived one step ahead. And he could feel that the same breath of life as he originated from the source emanated from behind the 99th prohibition. This familiarity, he has only experienced it in one person, that's Geniki. I felt this sense of familiarity. The hand that Jian Wushuang had stretched out stagnates in midair. Is it master? At this moment, Gu Jing's state of mind that Jian Wushuang had already cultivated has become a little confused. At the beginning, he was not skeptical. Would it be possible that his mysterious master might be the master of the Palace of Life? But he didn't dare to ask, for he was disappointed with the results. Later, at the grand ceremony of the universe, the of the universe mentioned to his master Xian Yi, although he still hasn't got the exact news, Jian Wushuang always knows one thing. That is, his master should be a figure on the same level as the of the universe. And the Lord of Life Jingong Palace, although equally mysterious and powerful, obviously will not be a level character with the of the universe. If Xian Yi is the master of the Palace of Life Jing, the of the universe would not be so secretive and blunt. Therefore, Jian Wushuang also broke off the idea that Xian Yihui was the master of the Life Palace. But at this moment, Jian Wushuang felt the familiarity coming out of the last barrier. But the idea was shaken. The breath inside him is exactly the same as him. This must not be done. Sword unparalleled, this seat will take a step first. Extremely noticed that Jian Wushuang had a strange face next to him. He dismissed his lips, and then stepped into the last prohibition. Alas! With a soft bang, Bingyu Supreme fell into the water, and his body directly passed through the last 99th forbidden, and entered the land of the gods. Whether it is right or not, you know it at first sight. After a short while, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, a flash of persistence in his eyes, and no hesitation, stepped into this barrier. Alas! A piece of darkness struck, as if trapped in the warm sea water, a warm current flowing on Jian Wushuang's body. This force of restraint is the most horrifying means of thunder for those who face the virtual universe. But those who face the divine universe are transformed into a pair of gentle hands. Alas! Ding! The darkness in front of me gradually receded, and countless stars of light appeared in the eyes of Jian Wushuang. The next moment, as if the world was lost, Jian Wushuang leapt lightly, jumping out of this best restraint. This is... Jian Wushuang saw this for a moment, and saw himself standing on a mountain, a skinny figure facing his back. Where's Bingyu Supreme? Wu Jian Wushuang frowned, and he did not see the figure of Bingyu Supreme. He was just stunned for a moment, and Jian Wushuang retracted his thoughts, and turned to look at the thin back. This back has gray hair and dangles all over the body, like skinny skin, with saggy skin attached to the bones, giving people a feeling of dying wood and exhausted oil. The breath of the same origin that Jian Wushuang felt before was transmitted from this back. Senior. Wu Jianwushuang took a deep breath and tried to ask. This back did not speak. A gust of wind blew across the top of the mountain, brushing his somewhat broken Xing-yi, revealing his lean skeletal body. Until a long while, he only heard a hoarse, old voice coming out of the skinny back. I ask you, what's the situation at the shrine now? As soon as this word came to an end, Jian Wushuang suddenly understood it. The identity of this thin back is naturally the legendary figure of the Life Shrine, the master of the Life Shrine standing at the highest point of the universe. Hit him. Not Xuani. I think of this, Jian Wushuang somehow, some joy and some loss. With a swinging corner, Jian Wushuo kneeled on one knee, took a deep breath, and said respectfully, Shen Sheng. The disciples of Life Jingu Sword are unparalleled. See Master Gongzhu. Master. Returning to the palace. Now the Temple of Life is seriously affected by the disciples, and they are very injured. They are recuperating. Wu Jianwushuang began to talk about the situation of the Life Shrine he knew now, slowly speaking. The skinny back did not speak, but listened quietly, seemingly unmoved, and did not react. Chapter 4502. Brother? Qi Jian Wushuang paused. A conjecture that made him feel incredible and shocked gradually came out of his mind. From beginning to end, he has received many powerful refuges and inheritances from his predecessors in his life, but the true worship of the teacher can make Jian Wushuang call a master. And there is only one person. That is Xuani. And the Lord of Life Jingu Palace said so. Then there is only one possibility, that is, he is also a disciple of Xuani. Yes. The thin figure nodded, and then turned slowly. An old face appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. His hair was gray, his eyes were cloudy, the skin on his cheeks was sunken, and his face was crumpled against his face. The whole man was full of the hero's late blight. Jian Wushuang, when you step into this land of God, I sense the breath of you. This is the breath that transcends the perfect level of life. Only one person can create this breath, and that is us, Master. The main body of the Life Shrine Palace said. His tone was flat, without any ups and downs. Wu Jianshuang's expression was complicated, and he did not speak. It seems that the Lord of the Palace of Life and the Palace of God did not want to hear Jian Wushuang's answer, but continued to say indifferently, Daoyan of this seat, this life has many identities, such as the Lord of Life Jingong Palace, such as the First Supreme. But what makes this seat the most cannot be left, only one identity, that is his disciples. Jian Wushuang heard a word. After a long while, Jian Wushuang thought about it and asked softly, Brother Dao. Brother Daoyan, can you tell me something about Master? This is the most urgent and most wanted news for Jian Wushuang. Master. The head of the Palace of the Life Shrine, Tao Yin Supreme, heard the words and looked up, as if looking through the 99 roads, looking to an extremely distant place, he said after a long silence. Our master is a character who can't use common sense. Do NT say that you do NT know his condition. Even if this practitioner is to this point, standing at the pinnacle of the universe, he still cannot see through the master. I do NT know much about Master's news, but I can tell you everything. First of all, this seat was born at the beginning of the universe. When chaos just opened, I was also the master I knew at that time. I was nothing but a green lotus who didn't understand in the chaos. It was during the dawn of chaos that the master woke me up and gave me wisdom roots, so that we could wake up from the chaos and practice all the way. When I came to the back, it was the master who transformed his body for me and gave me a special life beyond the perfect level. I just stepped into this state step by step and reached the top of the universe. Speaking carefully, the Life Shrine of the Year was also created by the Master, and the Life Shrine can be born, thanks to the Master. Until the 100,000 Chaos Era, people with the Void Universe entered the Divine Universe through the Void Gap. And then a catastrophe occurred, and the Master disappeared as if the world had evaporated. In these years, this block has not stopped the search for Master, from the Divine Universe to the Void Universe. Although this seat did not find a Master, this seat is not without gain. 10,000s of epochs of chaos. When this block first stepped into the virtual universe, he encountered a dying 6-mark vanity, and on his body, this block felt the breath of a master. Later, I learned from him that this person is also a disciple of Master. It's just that this seat has more time to ask in the future. This person will die and disappear, and this seat will be chased by the most powerful person in this universe, and can only retreat. Before this person was dying, it is best to tell me a word of this seat, so that I don't have to look for traces of Master, he said. We are created by Master, and we must be due to Master in the future. And dying is just delayed by Master. Life Jingu Palace Lord said lightly. Qi Jian Wushuang fell into silence. This is not the first time he has heard that Master is a chess player, and they are a chess piece. As early as at the Cosmos Grand Event, the of the universe said something similar to him. Wu Xuani, in the next big game. This game uses the universe as the chess surface, and all beings as the chess pieces. His sword unparalleled, or other disciples of Xianyi, are just a ring in the chess game, a chess piece. Sword unparalleled. Do you know I see you, especially like seeing a person? Shrine Palace Main Tao Yin Supreme said. Am I? Like who? Wu Jian asked with a frown. I used to be, she said, shaking her head. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but sigh. Hey, he is not like the former Tao Yin Supreme. And Xianyi was given the chance to make a good fortune. Then he set foot on a path to find master. Brother Dao Yin, let me take you out of here first. Converged his thoughts, Jian Wushuang said. He turned over with his right hand, and Zhen Tianbei appeared in his hand. Although the Lord of the Life Shrine has disappeared tens of thousands of chaos periods, his legend still exists in the universe. I was rumored that at the time of the Holocaust, the of the universe had not yet risen. It was the Supreme Master of the Palace of Life, who led the universe and resisted the erosion of the virtual universe. It was precisely because of his existence that he was dragged into the rise of the universe. And then he turned the tide and drove the people out of the virtual universe. I can say that Supreme is the man in the divine universe, second only to the of the universe. Now the second catastrophe is imminent. If Dao Yin could return at this time, it would be an epic strengthening of the magical universe. In addition, Dao Yin Supreme is also his elder brother, and the master of the Palace of Life. His sword is unparalleled. How can he bear to let this old man who has already disappeared, and the old man with a candle remaining in his life, continue to be alone in this land of God? This seat cannot go out. However, Tao Yin Supreme shook his head and said, Sword unparalleled, these 99 bands are all supported by this seat. Although it resists the power of the virtual universe and prevents it from entering, it also breaks the way out of this seat. Once this seat leaves here, these 99 prohibitions will collapse in an instant. And once these 99 prohibitions collapse, the guy who has been staring at this seat in the universe will immediately release and place this seat in deadly. At that time, not only will this seat fall, you will also die because of this seat. We will not be able to get out of here. That guy, Jian Jianwushuang, heard a word. Yes. Dao Yin nodded his head, his lips aroused a touch of indifference, and looked up at Woody Void. That guy fought with this seat in the past. This seat can only seal himself in these 3 inches. And that guy is equally, he was seriously injured and has been recuperating. Calculate time. That guy's injury has recovered at this moment. This seat can feel that for nearly 1,000 times of chaos, there has been a pair of eyes looking at this seat. I'm afraid that is the guy. If this seat is to go out, I'm afraid we have to wait until one day you can truly defeat the virtual universe and come in. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.